Chapter 1286. The moment Lu Yu finished speaking, the players who had just revived in the village hurriedly bowed. Boss! When Lu Yu heard this, he nodded and said, "That brat Yuan Shao is about to attack Hulao Pass. Without Lu Yu, Guanzhong, Yin Liang, and Wen Chou, the Marquis's demand for Dong will definitely fail like in history. At that time, I'll provoke Huaxiong or Lu Bu to attack the alliance. When the time comes, remember to use my name to capture the remaining soldiers of the 18 Marquises." "Yes, boss." When the player disguised as Huaxiong's personal guard heard this, his eyes lit up, and he bowed to Lu Yu. When Lu Yu heard this, he stroked the goatee on his chin and said, "This is our chance. This is our chance. As long as we grab hold of it and succeed, we'll be able to gain a foothold in the real world and become the overlords of a region. Don't worry, boss. We promise to do our best to help boss achieve his goal." When the player disguised as Huaxiong's personal guard heard this, he patted his chest without hesitation and shouted. When Lu Yu heard this, he nodded in satisfaction. At this moment, the player disguised as Huaxiong's personal guard suddenly thought of something and asked, "Boss, Yi Chen hasn't shown himself for a long time. Will he suddenly join the Marquis's demand for Dong?" When Lu Yu heard this, his face stiffened, and he said, "Impossible. If he wanted to join, he would have become one of the 18 Marquises or stood on Dongzhuo's side. He wouldn't have waited until now and done nothing." When the player disguised as Huaxiong heard this, he nodded and said, "As long as Yi Chen doesn't join, we'll definitely be able to bring a lot of natives to the real world." When Lu Yu heard this, he nodded and said, Go. Remember, don't make a fuss. Don't let other players take advantage of the situation." When the player disguised as Huaxiong's personal guard heard this, he nodded and said, "Don't worry, boss. Don't worry, boss. Our brothers will never reveal this secret." When Lu Yu heard this, he immediately smiled, and then directly left this place. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's residence. Yi Chen, who had been refining the 9 orifices exquisite stone for 2 hours, suddenly opened his eyes. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully refining the Xiantian Cardinal Treasure, 9 orifices exquisite stone. The moment the system notification ended, Yi Chen couldn't help but smirk. "I finally succeeded. All that was left was to inject the qi of heaven and earth into it during the founding of the nation." Thinking of this, Yi Chen looked directly at the 9 orifices exquisite stone that had turned into a jade seal floating in front of him. With a thought, the 9 orifices exquisite stone instantly flew towards Yi Chen and then disappeared. Right at this moment, Yuji's voice suddenly sounded out. "Congratulations, husband. The refinement is complete." When Yi Chen heard this, he couldn't help but smile. He then looked at Yuji, who was lying on the bed, and said, "Madam, are you hungry?" Yuji was slightly taken aback when she heard this. When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled and stood up. "Since Madam is hungry, then husband will personally cook today to reward Madam." Yuji possessed one of the top 10 famous weapons, the 6-sided ambush. Before Yi Chen refined the 9 orifices exquisite stone, she had been working with Yi Chen for 2 hours. Her stomach was already rumbling with hunger. Yi Chen naturally wouldn't let Yuji continue to starve. Of course, this wasn't the key reason why Yi Chen wanted to personally cook. If one had to say the key reason, it would be that Yuji's identity was rather special. Yi Chen had to take a certain amount of time to accompany Yuji and let her feel the love and care from Yi Chen. Only then would Yuji completely forget the past and devote herself to Yi Chen. This didn't mean that Yuji still missed the past. In fact, Yuji's heart was already completely tied to Yi Chen. After all, Yi Chen had already taken down Yuji and even made her hover between life and death. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for Yuji not to place her heart on Yi Chen. However, Yi Chen felt that this kind of stimulation wasn't strong enough. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chen directly said that he wanted to personally cook after asking Yuji if she was hungry. As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Yuji was stunned. Who was Yi Chen? Throughout the entire Great Han Dynasty, there was no one who didn't know him. It was even more impossible for Yuji, who had already become Yi Chen's woman, to not know. Of course, that wasn't important. What was important was that Yi Chen, the king of Han, the city lord of reincarnation Immortal City, and her husband, had said that he would personally cook for her. Yuji was greatly offended by his words. In Yuji's opinion, with Yi Chen's status, it was impossible for him to cook. It was also against etiquette, but Yi Chen just had to say such words. How could Yuji not be stunned? After a brief moment of shock, an extremely strong sense of happiness instantly appeared in Yuji's heart. Husband, after hearing Yuji's touching words, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile and say, Madam, please wait for a moment. Madam, please wait for a moment. It will be ready soon. When Yuji heard this, her eyes couldn't help but redden, and then she nodded in agreement. When Yi Chen saw this, he gently kissed Yuji and then left the bedroom. Not long after, the aroma of food appeared from the kitchen and spread out. After a while, Yi Chen finished cooking and then asked the maid to carry it back to Yuji. As soon as he entered the room, before Yi Chen could say anything, Yuji's words came over. Husband, call Sister He over. Let's eat together. When Yi Chen heard this, he was slightly stunned. Yi Chen also didn't expect that Yuji would suddenly call He Lian over for dinner. After coming back to his senses, Yi Chen looked straight at the maid standing in the room, waiting to serve him at any time, and said, Go, call Madam He over for dinner. Yes, you have beach. When a maid heard this, she hurriedly bowed and walked out of the door. Yi Chen glanced at the departing maid, then looked at the smiling Yuji and asked, What's the matter? Madam, do you know He Lian? Yuji and He Lian were not people of the same era. Moreover, He Lian had just arrived in reincarnation Immortal City not long ago, and no one knew her identity except for Yi Chen. Therefore, in Yi Chen's opinion, Yuji should not know He Lian, but the fact was that Yuji called out Sister He. What did this mean? It was very simple. Yuji knew He Lian. It was precisely because of this reason that Yi Chen was so confused. As soon as Yi Chen's words fell, Yuji couldn't help but smile, and then said, Husband, I don't know Sister He, but I have a talent called mind reading. As long as the distance between us is less than 10,000 meters, I can sense everyone's thoughts. However, I can't sense what you're thinking. When Yi Chen heard this, he was slightly stunned, then looked at Yuji and asked, Madam, what is He Lian thinking? When Yuji heard this, she covered her mouth and laughed, then said, Little sister, he is thinking about when husband will go and accompany her. Chapter 12, 87. When Yi Chen heard this, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. I've indeed neglected her these past 2 days. Husband, I was just casually saying that. I didn't want to use this opportunity to ask for anything, nor did I mean to make you dislike Sister He. Yuji was slightly stunned when she heard this, then hurriedly said. When Yi Chen heard this, he couldn't help but smile and say, Madam, don't worry. Don't worry, madam. How could I, your husband, not trust you? When Yuji heard this, she immediately heaved a sigh of relief and said, This way, I can be at ease. To Yuji, Yi Chen was very important. She couldn't let anyone misunderstand her, but she couldn't let Yi Chen misunderstand her. Otherwise, Yuji wouldn't have become so nervous after realizing that she was trying to snitch on her just now. When Yi Chen heard Yuji's words, he smiled. At this moment, He Lian walked in. When she saw Yi Chen and Yuji, He Lian hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Greetings, husband. Greetings, sister. When Yuji heard this, she chuckled and nodded. Sister, husband specially cooked today. Let's eat together. When He Lian heard this, she was slightly stunned. Then, she looked at Yi Chen with a dumbfounded expression and asked, Husband, this food is... When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled and said, Are you surprised? You're surprised, aren't you? You don't have to be so surprised. I did make the food. Come on, try my cooking. When He Lian heard this, she immediately came back to her senses and nodded. Yes, husband. After He Lian finished speaking, she sat beside Yuji. When Yi Chen saw this, he couldn't help but smile and say, There's no need to be nervous. There's no need to be so nervous. Let's eat. After dinner, I'll take you to the world I'm in." As soon as Yi-Chen finished speaking, Yu-Ji and He-Lian's eyes lit up. To be able to go to Yi-Chen's world meant that Yi-Chen had sincerely accepted them. Otherwise, how could they be so excited all of a sudden? Looking at Yu-Ji and He-Lian's surprised expressions, Yi-Chen smiled and said, "That's right. All right, let's eat." "Yes, husband." When Yu-Ji and He-Lian heard this, they agreed in unison. Then, they picked up their chopsticks and started eating. Yi-Chen was a supreme culinary expert. His dishes were incomparably delicious. Yu-Ji and He-Lian ate until they were satisfied. An hour later, Yi-Chen was done eating and drinking to his heart content. The maids cleared the table and cleared the table. Then, he waved his right hand and took out two world rocks. When they saw the two world stones suddenly appear in Yi-Chen's hand, Yu-Ji and He-Lian simultaneously revealed looks of anticipation. When Yi-Chen saw this, he smiled and handed the two enlightenment stones to Yu-Ji and He-Lian. "Just use it." As soon as Yi-Chen said that, Yu-Ji and He-Lian did not hesitate to use it. In an instant, the two world rocks turned into two balls of white light and flew toward Yu-Ji and He-Lian. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. When Yi-Chen saw this, the connate cardinal treasure, the cauldron of heaven and earth, appeared in an instant. Yu-Ji and He-Lian, who had just used up the two world rocks, were stunned when they saw this. While the two women were confused by their husband, Yi-Chen, taking out a huge cauldron, Yi-Chen pointed his right hand at the cauldron of heaven and earth and sucked in the void. With two buzzing sounds, two balls of fortune energy flew out of the cauldron of heaven and earth and fell toward Yu-Ji and He-Lian. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. "Husband, what's this?" Yu-Ji was slightly taken aback when she saw this. Then, she looked at Yi-Chen and asked. When Yi-Chen heard this, he glanced at He-Lian, who was also confused, and said, "It's a good thing. It's a good thing to improve your constitution." Yu-Ji and He-Lian's eyes lit up when they heard Yi-Chen's words. It was impossible for the two girls to not know what the bone frame was. It was precisely because they knew that they were so excited. This was because a constitution that had been fixed at birth could be improved. While the two women were excited by Yi-Chen's words, two mysterious and indescribable auras appeared from their bodies and exploded. This was a special aura that would only appear when the fortune energy improved one's constitution. It appeared on Yu-Ji and He-Lian just like that. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Yu-Ji and He-Lian opened their eyes at the same time. They looked at Yi-Chen at the same time and said in surprise, "Thank you, husband." When Yi-Chen heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, with a wave of his right hand, two god-tier, youth-retaining fruits appeared in his hand. Glancing at the fruits, Yi-Chen said, "These are god-tier, youth-retaining fruits. This is a god-tier face-retaining fruit. After you eat it, you'll be able to retain your youth forever." As soon as Yi-Chen's words fell, Yu-Ji and He-Lian's eyes widened. They were excited to improve their constitution, but the excitement back then was far less intense than now, because Yi-Chen's words hit their weak spot. What did eternal youth mean? Without a doubt, it meant that they would never grow old. To Yu-Ji and He-Lian, this was no different from a huge surprise. If they had to choose, Yu-Ji and He-Lian would definitely prefer the god-tier youth-retaining fruit to the fortune energy. They were all women. As long as they were women, there was no woman who didn't want to retain eternal youth. That was indeed the case. They didn't want to become old women with old skin and wrinkled skin after many years. After coming back to their senses, Yu-Ji and He-Lian took the god-tier youth-retaining fruits from Yi-Chen's hands and swallowed them. When Yi-Chen saw this, he couldn't help but smile and say, Yu-Ji, you've cultivated my cultivation method. Little Yu, Chan and the others have all received my cultivation technique. What do you two want to learn?" When Yu-Ji and Diao-Chan heard this, they were both stunned. They didn't expect that their husband would teach them a cultivation technique after giving them so many good things. If it was someone else's cultivation technique, they definitely wouldn't take it to heart, but Yi-Chen was different. To be more precise, they had already become Yi-Chen's women. They knew very well how powerful Yi Qin's cultivation technique was. In their hearts, they never thought that they could cultivate Yi Qin's cultivation technique. But now this fact was in front of them. How could they not be shocked? After coming back to their senses, Yu Ji and He Liang looked at each other and then bowed together. Husband, we also want to learn the same cultivation technique. Obviously, Yu Ji and He Lian didn't want to be special. Otherwise, they wouldn't have said that. When Yi Qin heard this, he nodded with a smile and said, "All right, I'll impart the green lotus sword art to you now." When Yi Qin said this, he raised his right hand and pointed at Yu Ji and He Lian. With two buzzing sounds, two streams of information instantly turned into golden balls of light and appeared in the air. Then, they flew straight to Yu Ji and He Lian. Chapter 1288. Yu Ji and He Lian were both stunned when they saw this. However, they did not expect that Yi Qin would pass down the cultivation technique to them in such a manner. While Yu Ji and He Lian were still in a daze, two streams of information instantly flew into their foreheads and disappeared. In the next second, Yu Ji and He Lian both entered the state of enlightenment. After taking a look at the two women who were comprehending the green lotus sword spell, Yi Qin moved his mind, and two rings and two void stones instantly appeared in Yi Qin's hands. In the next second, Yi Qin moved his mind, and the pure white true sun fire instantly appeared, and then began to burn the rings and the void stones. A few seconds later, Yi Qin shook his right hand, and the true sun fire instantly disappeared, and then two brand new storage rings were revealed. Yu Ji and He Lian had both become Yi Qin's women, so Yi Qin naturally wouldn't favor one and discriminate against the other and not give them the storage rings. Glancing at the newly refined storage rings, Yi Qin moved his mind, and 200 pieces of enlightenment tea, 200,000 pieces of top-level spirit stones, and two magic treasure level long swords instantly appeared, and then flew straight to the two storage rings. After all the items were stored in the storage rings, Yi Qin immediately sat on a chair in the hall and waited quietly. 2 hours later, Yu Ji and He Lian opened their eyes one after another, and then looked at Yi Qin together and cried out with great emotion, "Thank you, husband." Hearing this, Yi Qin couldn't help but smile, and then handed the two storage rings to Yu Ji and He Lian. "These are the storage rings I refined for you. Use them first. When I have good materials in the future, I'll refine them for you." "Thank you, husband." Yu Ji and He Lian's eyes lit up when they heard this, and then they bowed excitedly. When Yi Qin heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "Well, I will take you to the world where I live." As soon as Yi Qin finished speaking, Yu Ji and He Lian responded in unison, "Yes, husband." Hearing this, Yi Qin walked over to Yu Ji and He Lian's side. With a thought, he instantly logged out of the game. At the same time, He Lian and Yu Ji disappeared from the game world. In the real world, Samsara City, the main hall of the City Lord's mansion. With a creak, the door of the diamond-level gaming capsule opened instantly. Then they saw Yi Qin standing up from inside. At this moment, two balls of golden light suddenly appeared in the void. Then, He Lian and Yu Ji appeared. Flaming Tiger Yulin, who had been cultivating in the hall, saw this and immediately went to Yi Qin's side. "Big brother." When Yi Qin heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then he looked at Yu Ji and He Lian, who had just regained consciousness, and said, "This is the world where I live." Later, Yilin will lead you to the backyard to meet Xiaoyu, Chan, and the others. They're all very kind, so you don't have to be restrained or nervous. However, you have to remember my instructions and don't go against them. Yi Qin's instructions were not complicated. They were to be harmonious and get along well with each other. Don't be jealous and scheme against each other. Yi Qin did not want to see the backyard in chaos. Of course, even if Yi Qin did not say it, Yu Ji and He Lian, who were wholeheartedly concerned with Yi Qin, would not do such a thing. However, Yi Qin still had to say what he had to say. After all, this would show Yi Qin's attitude. "Okay, husband." Yu Ji and He Lian hurriedly responded when they heard this. Yi Qin nodded when he heard this. Then, he looked at Flaming Tiger Yilin and asked, The evolved race hasn't appeared yet? When Yichun went online previously, Flaming Tiger Yilin said that the evolved race had sent a golden rat. At that time, Yichun judged that the evolved race would come soon, so he specially instructed Flaming Tiger Yilin to ask Yichun to go offline as soon as possible after the evolved race appeared. However, it had been a few days, and Yichun had not been asked to go offline by Flaming Tiger Yilin. Naturally, Yichun found it strange. As soon as Yichun finished speaking, Flaming Tiger Yilin shook her head and said, "Big brother, the evolved race has disappeared. Brother, ever since that golden rat left, the evolvers have never appeared again. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. Do you usually hide your auras?" Yichun was slightly taken aback when he heard this. Then he asked, "Ever since Big Brother told me, we usually hide our divine beast auras in our bodies and never leak them out." Flaming Tiger Yilin hurriedly explained when she heard this. Yichun nodded when he heard this. Then he said, "The evolved race has been gathering their people. The evolved race should be gathering their clansmen. If there are no accidents, they should appear in a few days." Just as Yichun said this, a loud shout suddenly sounded from the city walls. "Enemy attack!" Yichun's eyes suddenly opened when he heard this. He instantly released his divine sense. In the next second, Yichun's eyes lit up. Damn it, the evolved race has finally arrived. Outside Samsara City, there is a group of huge beasts that were either pure gold, pure silver, or sparkling with diamonds all over their bodies. If it were anyone else, they would definitely treat them as shifter race players. However, Yichun didn't. This was because Yichun knew very well that pure silver, pure gold, or sparkling with diamonds are the hallmarks of the evolved race. Just as Yichun thought of this, the eyes of Yinhu and Yilin, who were at the side, lit up. "Big brother, the evolved race is here." When Yichun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then he said, "I saw it. Let's go. Today we'll wipe out the evolved race in one fell swoop." "Yes, big brother. Big brother." When Yinhu and Yilin heard this, they heavily nodded their heads before opening their mouths to reply. When Yichun heard this, he smiled slightly. Then, he immediately soared into the air and flew rapidly toward the city walls. When Flaming Tiger Yilin saw this, she hurriedly flew toward the city walls. On the city walls of Samsara City, as soon as Yichun arrived, Zhou Tsang, who was in charge of guarding Samsara City in the real world, and the soldiers on the city walls were all stunned. Then, they hurriedly bowed to Yichun and greeted him loudly. "Greetings, Lord." When Yichun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, he looked into the distance at the overwhelming number of evolved races. This time, there were quite a lot of them. He wondered if this was all of them. Just as Yichun thought of this, several figures suddenly flew toward him. They were Flaming Tiger Yilin, Treasure Hunter Fish Yi Xiaoyu, Golden-Haired Monkey Xiao Jin, Little Turtle with a Black Tortoise's bloodline, and Black Emperor. They all came to the city walls. "Big brother, master, roar." When Yichun heard the words of his pets, he chuckled and nodded. Then, he said, "Be careful. Don't let any of them escape." "Yes, big brother, master, roar." When Flaming Tiger Yilin, Treasure Hunter Fish Yi Xiaoyu, Xiao Jin, Little Turtle, and Black Emperor heard this, they all responded in unison. Of course, Black Emperor's response was a roar, not a human language. As a giant beast of the starry sky, it wanted to speak, but its realm was not high enough. When Yichun heard this, he smiled slightly. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared instantly. In the sky above the evolved races, the space suddenly distorted. Then, Yichun took a step forward and appeared here. At this moment, without exception, all the evolved races in the sky and on the ground widened their eyes. Then, they roared angrily at Yichun. Roar. Chapter 1289. When Yichun heard this, he glanced at the countless evolved beings in front of him and curled his lips in disdain. A bunch of ants trying to show off in front of me. It would have been fine if they hadn't appeared before, but now that they have, don't even think about escaping. The evolved beings were a special existence. Their flesh and blood could strengthen the body and improve the bone structure. such a function was actually no different from a heavenly treasure. Of course, apart from this, the evolved beings were also top-notch ingredients. It was also because of these reasons that Yi Chun had been constantly thinking about the evolved beings. And now, the evolved beings had appeared, and their numbers were as high as millions. How could Yi Chun not be excited? One must know that this was a heavenly treasure worth millions. As for Yi Chun facing off against millions of evolved beings, it was impossible for him to be in danger. Yi Chun was not the unlucky guy from his previous life who hunted down an evolved being and rose to power, only to be killed by the evolved beings overnight. At this moment, Yi Chun's strength far exceeded that of all players. Against the evolved beings, Yi Chun could just stand there and let them attack. The evolved beings could forget about hurting Yi Chun in the slightest. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's mind moved, and the black and thick God-Slayer instantly appeared. Glancing at the God-Slayer floating in front of him, Yi Chun smiled and pointed at the evolved being with his right hand. Buzz! A sound was heard. The black and thick God-Slayer instantly shook, and then it turned into a sky full of spear shadows. At a rough glance, there were millions of them. Seeing this, Yi Chun's eyes suddenly widened. F***CK. The God-Slayer, after being completely refined, is indeed much fiercer. Thinking of this, Yi Chun laughed and then shouted, "Die!" As soon as Yi Chun's words fell, the millions of God-Slayer shadows instantly turned into streaks of black light and disappeared in a flash. Poochie, 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 millions of sounds of bodies being penetrated rang out almost at the same time. Then, the evolvers who had been flaunting their prowess a moment ago all widened their beastly eyes. In the next second, swathes of evolved birds fell straight to the ground. At the same time, the evolvers on the ground fell to the ground in droves. A strong smell of blood immediately rose. On the city wall, the soldiers of Samsara City were stunned when they saw this scene. However, they had never expected that their lord, Yi Chun, would be so violent as to wipe out millions of evolvers. At the same time, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, Treasure Hunting Fish Yi Xiaoyu, Little Gold, Little Turtle, and Black Emperor, who were scattered around, were also stunned. Initially, they had wanted to kill those evolvers who were trying to escape, but now there was no need to kill them. Their master had annihilated the entire evolver race with a single strike. After a short moment of silence, a loud roar that shook the heavens and earth rang out. "Long live the Lord! Long live the Lord!" In the sky, Yi Chun, who had killed millions of evolvers with a single strike, couldn't help but smile when he heard this. Then, he raised his right hand and sucked in the air. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Dense sounds of air being torn apart instantly rang out. Then, the corpses of the evolvers could be seen flying towards Yi Chun in an overwhelming manner. Just as the corpses of the evolvers were 3 meters away from Yi Chun, they disappeared without a trace. The corpses of the evolvers were naturally kept by Yi Chun in his pocket dimension. In there, the corpses of the evolvers could be preserved forever and wouldn't rot. However, this wouldn't be the case in the outside world. Therefore, keeping the corpses of the evolvers in his pocket dimension was the best choice. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the corpses of the evolvers were all kept by Yi Chun without missing a single one. At this moment, a series of system notifications suddenly rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the second person to successfully kill a member of the Golden Race, Golden Pig. Player Yi Chun is specially rewarded with innate attribute points x 2000. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the third person to successfully kill a member of the Golden Race, Golden Rat. Player Yi Chun is specially rewarded with innate attribute points x 1000. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first person to successfully kill a member of the Diamond Race, Diamond Wolf. Player Yi Chun is specially rewarded with innate attribute points x 10,000. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first person to successfully kill a member of the Silver Race, Silver Hedgehog. Player Yi Chun is specially rewarded with innate attribute points x 300. A series of system notifications rang out crazily. causing Yi Chen's head to buzz. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the system notifications finally ended. Yi Chen then let out a long sigh. Mother of asterisk her. Luckily my level is high enough. Otherwise, I would have died from the noise of the system notifications. But speaking of which, I actually forgot about the reward of innate attribute points for killing members of the evolved race. Luckily, this reward won't stop appearing just because I forgot about it. Thinking of this, Yi Chen directly looked at his attribute panel. After confirming that his innate attribute points had increased by 100,000, Yi Chen couldn't help but smirk. Mother of asterisk her, this time when I went offline, I earned quite a bit. Not bad. Not bad. Just as Yi Chen was thinking of this, the system notification suddenly rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully killing members of the evolved race. The aggro morph in the evolved race has been automatically removed. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for successfully killing hundreds of members of the evolved race. Player Yi Chen is specially rewarded with innate attribute points x 10,000. Once the system notifications ended, Yi Chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Another 10,000 innate attribute points after ascending to the Eldritch World and using up all the experience points and innate attribute points, I might be able to break through to the middle stage of the Golden Immortal Realm. Even if I can't reach the middle stage of the Golden Immortal Realm, it doesn't matter. At least, the Golden Immortal Realm won't run away. Thinking of this, Yi Chen let out a long breath and flew straight to Samsara City. After arriving at the city wall, Zhou Tsang and all the soldiers of Samsara City knelt down on one knee and bowed loudly. Congratulations, my lord, for defeating the enemy in one strike. Hearing this, Yi Chen smiled and nodded. Then, with a wave of his right hand, 1,000 silver beast corpses appeared on the city wall instantly. Their flesh and blood can improve one's bones and strengthen one's body. If cooked, the taste will be even better. You can choose how to use them. Once Yi Chen finished speaking, Zhou Tsang and the soldiers of Samsara City on the city wall all lit up. Then, they bowed to Yi Chen and said loudly, "Thank you, my lord, for your kindness." After hearing this, Yi Chen smilingly nodded his head. At that instant, Yinhu, Yilin, the treasure-hunting fish, Yi Xiaoyu, the golden-furred monkey, Xiao Jin, little tortoise who possessed the bloodline of the Xuanwu, and the Black Emperor flew toward them. As soon as they arrived, all the pets bowed in unison. Congratulations, brother, master, for your great harvest. Chapter 1290. Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded with a smile and said, "Cultivate well. Don't come here to snatch food. I'll leave some meat in the backyard later. If you want to eat it, go over there and ask the ladies for it." "Yes, brother, master." Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, Little Gold, Little Turtle, and Black Emperor's eyes lit up when they heard this, and then they hurriedly said, after all, they had eaten the meat of the golden giant python of the evolved race before. They knew how delicious it was. It was precisely for this reason that they were so excited. Yi Chen smiled, and then flew toward the city lord's mansion. Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, Little Gold, Little Turtle, and Black Emperor hurriedly followed. After Yi Chen, Yi Lin, and the other spiritual pets left, Zhou Tsang immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Then he looked at the surrounding soldiers and shouted, "Quick, process this meat and preserve it." Among Yi Chen's spiritual pets, Flaming Tiger Yi Lin, treasure-hunting fish Yi Xiaoyu, Little Gold, and Little Turtle were all easy to deal with. Only Black Emperor, a member of the royal family of the Starry Sky Sword Dragon race, was the most difficult to deal with. This was not to say that the Black Emperor was bad, or that his character was vile, but that this guy was a super glutton who was even more gluttonous than Yinhu and Yilin. If he had nothing to do, he would come to Zhou Tsang's place, take advantage of the autumn wind, and then eat and drink. Zhou Tsang, who had been robbed of food by Black Emperor many times, was really afraid of Black Emperor. Otherwise, Zhou Tsang wouldn't have said this. Samsara City, City Lord's Mansion Hall. As soon as Yi Chen arrived, he saw Yuji and He Lian who were still here. After a slight pause, he immediately realized that the two women were worried about him. After all, the roars of the beast were very loud just now. It was hard for Yuji and He Lien not to hear it. Thinking of this, Yichen couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. At this moment, Yuji and He Lien called out in unison, "Husband, is everything okay?" "Yes, it's okay. It's all settled." Yichen heard this, nodded, and then said. At this moment, Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Empress Hari, Nana, Kaiyin, Mijun, Huangyuan, Zhun, the five sisters Big, Xiao Xiao, and Philos Aureus, As soon as they entered the room, all the women called out in unison, "Husband." Yichen let out a smile upon hearing this, before he turned around and glanced at Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Nan, and the others. Before Yichen could speak, Xiao Xiao and Xiao Xiao exclaimed, "Empress He." As soon as Xiao Xiao and Xiao Xiao finished speaking, Empress Hari, Nana, Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Kaiyin, Mijun, Huangyuan, Zhunmi, and Philos Aureus were all stunned and then looked at Yichen in confusion. Seeing this, Yichen laughed a few times and then said, "She is the real sister of Empress He. Her name is He Lien." As soon as Yichen finished speaking, He Lien hurriedly took a step forward and then bowed to the women. "I'm He Lien. Greetings, sisters." He Lien's words were full of nervousness. There was no other way. Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Kaiyin, and the other women were Yichen's first wife. If Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Kaiyin, and Mijun were a little unhappy, her status as a concubine might be ruined. This was not the result He Lien wanted to see. Otherwise, she would not be so nervous and fawning. Hearing this, Xiaoyu glanced at He Lien and then said, "Don't be nervous. Since our husband has taken you in, we will all be sisters in the future. However, you have to remember one thing. Don't think that you are smart and don't play tricks." As soon as Xiaoyu finished speaking, He Lien hurriedly bowed and said, "He Lien doesn't dare. He Lien swears to the heavens that I will never do such a thing." As soon as He Lien finished speaking, the women looked at each other and then nodded in unison. When Yichen saw this, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, Yichen was still a little worried that the women would not tolerate He Lien, but the result was still very good. Although Xiaoyu's words were a little harsh, they were not excessive. After all, He Lien's status was that of a concubine. It was natural for the first wife to be called a concubine. Of course, Yichen said this because Yichen had already checked He Lien's soul and confirmed that she did not have any messy thoughts. Otherwise, Yichen would not have taken He Lien at all, much less taken care of her. Overall, it was not bad. They were getting along well, very well. Thinking of this, Yichen could not help but smile. Then, with a thought, a cross with a storage function instantly appeared in Yichen's hand. After glancing at the cross in his hand, Yichen immediately handed it to Xiaoyu. "Husband, what's this?" Xiaoyu, who took the cross from Yichen, was slightly taken aback when she saw this. Then, she looked at Yichen and asked. When Yichen heard this, he smiled slightly and said, "This is the meat of the evolved humans. It contains the meat of the evolved race. Madam, you can ask the chef to use it as an ingredient. The taste is not bad, and it has many benefits for the body." "Okay, husband." Xiaoyu's eyes lit up when she heard this. Then she spoke. When Yichen heard this, he smiled and nodded. Then he looked at the women and said, "Madam, there are still many things I need to do. Ladies, there are still many things waiting for me in that world. I'll go there first." "Okay, husband." When Xiaoyu, Diaochan, Nana, Kaiyin, Mijun, Huangyuan, and the other women heard this, they all responded in unison. When Yichen heard this, he could not help but smile. Then he walked straight to the diamond-level gaming chamber. When he arrived at the diamond-level gaming chamber, Yichen entered it and lay down. With a creak, the door of the diamond-level gaming chamber closed. At the same time, Yichen closed his eyes. In the game world, in the Three Kingdoms beginners area, Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion Hall. Suddenly, a pillar of light that reached the sky appeared. Then, Yichen appeared directly there. I wonder how far the vassals have progressed in their quest for Dong. When he thought of this, Yi Chen's mind moved, and he instantly released his divine sense. Then it enveloped the entire burly man. After a few seconds, Yi Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows. Damn, this progress is not bad. The Battle of Hulao Pass has begun. Outside Hulao Pass, 1 man, 1 horse, and 1 saber. After Hua Xiong killed the 12th vassal's general with 1 saber strike, he pointed his saber at the vassal army and shouted, "Who else?" At the vassal army's camp. When Yuan Shao, who had been watching the battlefield, heard this, his expression froze. Then, he looked at the surrounding vassals with grave expressions and shouted, "Who dares to go? Fight him." When the various vassals heard this, they all looked at each other, but no one dared to continue the conversation. "Whoever can bring me the head of this bandit will be rewarded with 1,000,000 taels of gold, 10,000 hectares of land, and 10 beauties. I'll go and meet him." After a loud shout, a man wearing cotton clothes suddenly charged out of the vassal army's camp, riding a withered old horse and holding a tattered, rusted wooden spear. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Residence. When Yi Chen saw this with his divine sense, his lips twitched involuntarily. This fellow, Zhang Dainiu, is really mocking others. At the very least, you should be wearing armor and holding a decent weapon. If you go over like this, you are not treating the other party as a human. Chapter 1291. Zhang Dainiu was the captain of the Samsara Legion that Yi Chen asked Jianwei to arrange. This was to prevent any changes in the course of the Dongzhuo rebellion due to Liu Bei's death, and Guan Yu's and Zhang Fei's acknowledgement of Yi Chen as their master. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Yi Chen did not expect Zhang Dainiu to be so ferocious after receiving the order. He actually wore cotton clothes, rode an old horse, and carried a broken wooden spear onto the battlefield. This kid had already reached the middle stage of the mortal evolution state. He could beat Lu Bu up with just a tree branch. Forget it. Let him be. Thinking of this, Yi Chen could not help but smile. Then, with a thought, the Khanate cardinal treasure, the cauldron of heaven and earth, appeared in front of him instantly. Glancing at the cauldron of heaven and earth floating in front of him, Yi Chen let out a long breath. The most dangerous godslayer, the grade 12 Black Lotus of Destruction, and the Xianhuang Pagoda of Heaven and Earth had been completely refined. The 3 major items used to build the Dynasty of Providence had also been refined. The next thing was to refine the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. The Cauldron of Heaven and Earth had first appeared in Hongjuan's hands in the Primordial history. Although Yi Chen had intercepted it in advance, Yi Chen could not ignore the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. To be more precise, if Yi Chen did not refine the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth, it was very likely that he would encounter some special plot after his ascension, and then Hongjun would take away the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. Yi Chen did not want to see such a situation. It was also for this reason that Yi Chen chose to refine the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth after refining the most important Khanate cardinal treasures. Thinking of this, Yi Chen's thoughts moved, and he instantly connected with a massive amount of Khanate merit in his body. In the next second, Yi Chen stripped off 1 billion Khanate merit points without hesitation and injected them into the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. At this moment, the originally ordinary Cauldron of Heaven and Earth suddenly shook. With a buzzing sound, tens of thousands of golden rays suddenly appeared on the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth and directly exploded. The hall of the City Lord Mansion was instantly covered in golden light. At the same time, waves of mysterious and indescribable aura appeared directly from the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. Glancing at the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth, Yi Chen smiled faintly. Then, he closed his eyes and entered the refining state. Yi Chen had used 10,000 Tao Comprehension Stones previously. After refining the Heavenly Book, Yi Chen still had a lot of time left. Although Yi Chen had been delayed for a while and had even gone to the real world and wasted some time, the Tao Comprehension mode was not over yet. Thus, Yi Chen did not need to continue replenishing his Tao Comprehension Stones. He could directly enter the Tao Comprehension mode. Just as Yi Chen entered the state of refinement, The sound of the great path resounded in the air. Then, it spread rapidly outside the city lord's mansion. On the streets of the reincarnation immortal city, the people who were chatting and laughing just now were all stunned. In the next second, all the people looked in the direction of the city governor's mansion. You Lord Beach are giving us benefits again. Old John, you're right. It's a pity that we didn't live up to your expectations and only had one epiphany. That's right. It's a pity. However, I heard from my son that this epiphany can only happen once. Unless you can go out and fight like those soldiers and gain something, only then will you be able to enter the second epiphany. My son is also very good. It's a pity that we're all ordinary people and can't join the army. If only we could join the army and become soldiers under you Lord Beach's command. I didn't think about it either, but we can only think about it. If we want to be soldiers, we don't meet the requirements. Don't think about it. Let's go back and make a baby. That's the most important thing. We can't be soldiers, but our children can. Hey, you reminded me. Old Lou's second daughter-in-law gave birth to a baby not long ago. He was born in the innate realm. Is there such a good thing? Why not? Do you think I'm lying to you? That's great. I'll go back quickly and work hard with my wife to give birth to a baby in the innate realm. Ha ha. At the drill ground of Reincarnation Immortal City. The soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City who were training were stunned. At this moment, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals who were supervising the drill ground exchanged glances and shouted in unison. Double the training. Yes, General. General. The soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City yelled without any hesitation. They couldn't enter the state of epiphany for a short period of time, but they could improve their cultivation rapidly while Yi Chan was refining innate spiritual treasures and innate cardinal treasures. That was why Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba said so. Reincarnation Immortal City's City Lord Mansion. The cauldron of heaven and earth floating in front of Yi Chun rotated slowly. A mysterious aura mixed with the sound of the great Tao spread out continuously. It became stronger and stronger. Hulao Pass, where the Alliance army was located. Zhang Daniu, who was riding an old horse and holding a broken spear, appeared on the battlefield. He immediately attracted everyone's attention. Whose soldier is this? Why doesn't he have any armor or decent weapons? Yuan Shao was stunned when he saw Zhang Daniu's shabby appearance. He then asked. Upon hearing this, the dukes exchanged glances with each other and shook their heads in unison. Damn it, who let him out? Isn't this destroying our Alliance army's fighting spirit and making us a laughing stock? Yuan Shao's face darkened when he saw this. He then shouted, It's hard to tell where this soldier belongs from his attire. The governor of Heniai Prefecture, Wang Quang, looked at Zhang Daniu and said with a sigh, The way I see it, this person is a refugee who came here to eat and drink. Yuan Shu let out a long sigh and said, Cao Cao looked at Yuan Shu and said, I don't think so. Since this person dares to enter the battlefield, he must want to fight Hua Xiong. Although I don't know whose subordinate he is, as long as he survives, Cao Yuan will accept him as a subordinate. Yuan Shao was stunned when he heard this. He then looked at Cao Cao with a strange expression and asked, Brother Mengda, do you think this person can withstand one strike from Hua Xiong? Cao Cao stroked his beard when he heard this. Whether he can or can't, we'll know after the battle. Yuan Shao was stunned again when he heard this. He then said, If he survives, I, Shao, am willing to accept him as my general. Below Hulao Pass, one man and one horse, Hua Xiong looked down on everyone. When he saw Zhang Daniu, who looked like a refugee, his face immediately turned red. Of course, he was angry. Damn it, when I asked for a fight, the feudal lords didn't send their general but sent a refugee instead. This is a humiliation to me, Hua Xiong. Thinking of this, Hua Xiong pointed the saber in his right hand at Zhang Daniu and shouted, Bastard! Scram! Chapter 1292. Hearing Hua Xiong's aggressive words, Zhang Daniu's expression did not change. Instead, he grinned. Zhang Daniu's action provoked Hua Xiong once again. Motherf asterisk Kerr. It's fine if Zhang Daniu doesn't wear his armor, but he's riding a withered old horse. It's disgusting enough. If that's all, it's nothing. But UF asterisk King smiled as soon as he saw me. You're not afraid, and you're not leaving. Are you mocking me? Sarcasm. Motherf asterisk Kerr. That's too insulting. At that moment, Hua Xiong's eyes widened. His round eyes were bloodshot. In the next second, Hua Xiong's right hand, which was pointing at Zhang Daniu, shook violently. He then turned to Zhang Daniu and shouted angrily, "Since you want to die so badly, I'll fulfill your wish." If any random refugee could provoke him, how could Hua Xiong survive in the future? As soon as Hua Xiong finished speaking, he squeezed his horse with his legs. The man and the horse galloped toward Zhang Daniu. This time, Hua Xiong really wanted to kill Zhang Daniu. Facing Hua Xiong's aggressive battle formation, Zhang Daniu's smile widened. If it was an ordinary person, they might not be Hua Xiong's match. However, Zhang Daniu was different. He was the unparalleled, invincible Prince Yu of Han, Yi Chen's man. He was the captain of the Samsara Legion. With his strength, even Lu Bu could only kneel in front of him, let alone Hua Xiong, who was even weaker than Lu Bu. At the Alliance's camp, who do you think this person is? He dares to face Hua Xiong without showing any fear. I don't believe he's a refugee. You don't say. I don't think he's an ordinary refugee either. I keep feeling that he has an indescribable temperament. You're wrong. I think he's a refugee. He's just pretending not to show any fear. Maybe he's scared to death. Let's not talk about who he is for now. To have the guts to face Hua Xiong is not something you or I can do. On the city walls of Hulao Pass, this damnable bastard actually wears cloth clothes, rides an inferior horse, and carries a tattered wooden spear onto the battlefield. Who gave him the courage? There must be no one left on the vassal's side. That's why they sent such a piece of trash to the battlefield. I think so too. Furthermore, I feel that this guy is a retard. Look at how he's smiling like a fool. If he's not a fool, what is he? Take a guess. Will General Hua Xiong chop off his head or cut him in half? I think it might have been cut in half. Didn't you see that General Hua Xiong was angry? Ha ha ha. This brat is courting death. He can't blame anyone. On the battlefield, tap tap tap, tap 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 tap. Riding on the warhorse, chicken wings, Hua Xiong charged toward Zhang Daniu with a murderous aura. His speed was getting faster and his aura was getting stronger. The moment Hua Xiong advanced to Zhang Daniu, the long blade in his right hand slashed viciously at Zhang Daniu. At the same time, Zhang Daniu, who had been motionless, glanced at Hua Xiong. For some reason, Hua Xiong suddenly felt a sense of danger. There was no reason for it, but he just felt danger. However, Hua Xiong immediately threw this sense of danger to the back of his mind. His long blade did not stop swinging. Just as Hua Xiong thought that the long knife in his hand would cut the unruly refugee in half, the man in front of him suddenly stopped. A 2-meter-long wooden spear pierced towards Hua Xiong with a swoosh. Fast, extremely fast. It was so fast that he could only watch, unable to react. In that instant, Hua Xiong's eyes narrowed. This bastard was pretending to be weak to eat the tiger. The wooden spear pierced through Hua Xiong's heart effortlessly and came out of his body. Everything happened too quickly. It wasn't just Hua Xiong. The other spectators could not react in time either. They had all thought that Zhang Daniu would be cut in half by the blade. However, the outcome had been completely reversed. Wow! After Hua Xiong was knocked off his warhorse, the entire battlefield fell silent. What followed was an uproar. This outcome was simply beyond their expectations. On the city wall of Hulao Pass, what just happened? How did General Hua Xiong get stabbed to death with a single spear? I don't know. Damn it. How could this happen? Isn't that person a fool? How could he kill General Hua Xiong with a single spear? Impossible. It's fake. It must be fake. General Hua Xiong can't be defeated, but silence. Lu Bu, who had been standing on the city wall all this while, opened his eyes wide and shouted. In that instant, the soldiers on the city wall fell silent. At the vassal alliance's base, Good. Chow Chow, who had witnessed the entire process, suddenly stood up and shouted. Ha ha ha. As expected, Xiao didn't misjudge. This person is a talent. He deserves to be under my banner. Yuan Xiao opened his eyes wide and laughed maniacally. Chow Chow frowned and said, Alliance leader, who is he? We don't know who this person's soldier is. Moreover, we don't know who he wants to choose. Why don't we wait for him to return and ask him? Brother Mengda, you're wrong. This person is clearly a good man of G City. No matter who he followed before, he should have come under my banner, said Yuan Xiao after glancing at Chow Chow when he heard that. When Liu heard this, he cast a glance at Yuan Xiao and said, Alliance leader, I don't think so. You should ask him about who he belongs to. He should belong to whoever he belongs to. Alliance leader, how can you snatch him away by force? Yuan Xiao's face darkened when he heard this. He snorted and stopped talking. At that moment, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun and his soldier for successfully killing Hua Xiong. Due to his special identity, player Yi Chun is rewarded with 3 innate attribute points. The world announcement was repeated 3 times in a row. It instantly caused an uproar in the world channel. F*CK. F*CK. What's going on? Didn't they say that Yi Yu of Gojoseon didn't participate in Dong's rebellion? Why did Yi Yu of Gojoseon kill Hua Xiong? Are you stupid? Didn't you see the world announcement? It said that he was a soldier under Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Isn't it the same? Although I don't know the reason, I feel that Dongzhuo won't be able to survive Dongzhuo's rebellion. I think so too. Think about it. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is so powerful. If Yi Yu of Gojoseon stood on the side of the warlords, Dongzhuo wouldn't be able to survive. Why do I feel that things aren't that simple? What do you mean simple? The warlords will win. Because I chose the warlord's side. The world channel was in an uproar. Liu Yu, who was in the warlord's camp, froze. If anyone knew that Liu Yu was actually the leader of the player faction that was preparing to wantonly collect the natives of the game world in the plot of the vassals seeking Dong and bring them back to the real world, they would immediately understand why his expression suddenly became unnatural. It was very simple. His plan was cut in half by the sudden appearance of Yi Chen's soldier. Chapter 1293. What should I do? The player pretending to be Liu Yu started to feel troubled. Yi Chen's interference had messed up all of his plans. However, if he turned back now, all of his plans would be for naught. No matter what, he could not afford such a huge loss. After trying his best to calm himself down, the player pretending to be Liu Yu decided to wait and see. After all, Yi Chen had not discovered him yet. Who knows, he might be able to make use of this to gain some benefits. Thinking of this, the player leader's heart calmed down. Just as the leaders were arguing about the ownership of Zhang Daniyu, some sharp-eyed people noticed that Zhang Daniyu had already left the battlefield unknowingly. Moreover, after leaving the battlefield, Zhang Daniyu did not return to the army formation. Instead, he disappeared. Realizing this, the various lords were all anxious. They were like ants on a hot pan, ordering their subordinates to start searching. What happened? How did a living person disappear just like that? What are you all doing? Why aren't you going to search? If you can't find him, bring me your head. Yuan Xiao was the most anxious one. He had to obtain such a fierce general. He could not let others take advantage of him. Chow Chow and the others had the same thoughts. They all ordered their subordinates to search for Zhang Daniyu. However, Zhang Daniyu seemed to have disappeared in a thin air. No matter how they searched, they could not find any clues. Just at this moment, thunderous war drums rang out, and the city gates of Hulao Pass suddenly opened. It was Lu Bu leading a group of soldiers and charging out from within the pass. When the 18 lords saw Lu Bu, their expressions froze. Lu Bu's ferocity was too great. The moment he appeared, he made them all fearful. Lu Bu led his troops to the front of the formation. He sat on the red hare horse with an arrogant expression. He pointed his halberd forward and squeezed out a few words in disdain. Just a bunch of mobs. Yuan Xiao, you bastard, Lu Fengxian is here. Do you dare to fight me to the death? Such a loud shout shook the world, scaring the soldiers of the 18 lords. Some of the more cowardly ones even peed their pants. Lu Bu's name is like a tree shadow. With Lu Bu's appearance, all 18 warlords present collectively fell into silence. Being humiliated by Lu Bu in such a manner, Yuan Shao could no longer maintain his composure. He immediately encouraged the generals under his tent. Who is willing to go out and kill this bastard? Reward him with 1,000 taels of gold, 1,000 hectares of fertile land, 1,000 servants, and 100 beauties. In order to save his face, he had really put in a lot of effort. As the saying goes, when there is a great reward, there will be brave men. As soon as Yuan Shao finished speaking, General Fanxin was the first to step forward and volunteer. My lord, Wen Pin is willing to go and kill this thief to strengthen our army's morale. Good. General Wen is indeed brave. Go and come back quickly. Yuan Shao stroked his beard and encouraged him. Yes. After receiving the order, Wen Pin immediately charged to the front of the formation. He has long heard of Lu Bu's reputation as the world's #1 brave general. His heart has always been unconvinced. Now that he has seized the opportunity, he secretly vowed that he must cut Lu Bu down from his horse. Today, he was going to prove to all the heroes in the world that he was the real #1 in the East. Seeing Wen Pin rushing over, Lu Bu felt strange. Why wasn't the general riding a scrawny horse and holding a broken spear? Wen Pin's attack had already reached him. Lu Bu, little brat, today is the day you die. Wen Pin was so eager to gain merit that he did not realize the huge gap between him and his opponent. Without any explanation, he directly swung his sword toward Lu Bu's head. You think you are worthy? Lu Bu's face was filled with disdain. If it was the beggar general who came to fight him, he might have paid more attention. But an opponent of Wen Pin's level, he did not care at all. The next moment, Lu Bu casually raised his Fangtian halberd, and with a light sweep, he deflected Wen Pin's attack. Clang! Under the collision of weapons, Wen Pin was pushed back a few steps and barely managed to control his horse. What is the name of the general who killed Hua Xiong? Where is he? Tell me, and I will spare your life. Lu Bu looked at Wen Pin as if he was looking at a dead man. Against an opponent of this level, he did not have the slightest bit of interest. Too weak, so weak that it could explode. The arrogant Lu Bu felt that fighting with this kind of person was degrading himself. The huge recoil almost caused Wen Pin to lose his grip on his sword. At this moment, he finally understood the huge gap between his strength and Lu Bu's. However, he did not back down because of this. The strength of the enemy had ignited Wen Pin's boundless battle intent. Lu Fengxian, you really live up to your reputation. Today, let's see who is better. Although he knew that he was no match for Lu Bu, for a general like Wen Pin, it was rare to meet such an opponent in his life. Even if he died in battle, it would be a kind of glory. Eat my sword. After understanding all of this, Wen Pin let out a loud roar. He concentrated all of his strength into the blade and swiftly chopped down at Lu Bu. You are courting death. Lu Bu was already impatient with Wen Pin's constant harassment. With a loud shout, his body suddenly emitted an invincible aura. The cloak on his body also fluttered without any wind. It was as if a god of war had been resurrected. Scram! Lu Bu roared. At the same time, the Fangtian halberd in his hand swept toward Wen Pin like a ray of light. Wen Pin, who was already in front of Lu Bu, saw the Fangtian halberd coming toward him. How could he have the strength to fight back? He could only hold his sword in front of his chest the moment the Fangtian halberd hit him. Clang! Ah! After letting out a miserable scream, Wen Pin was sent flying by Lu Bu's halberd along with his sword. Dark red blood splattered all over the ground. After landing on the ground, Wen Pin vomited blood and could no longer stand up. The famous general of Ji City, Wen Pin, could not even last 3 moves in front of Lu Bu. The only reason he could survive was because Lu Bu was too arrogant and did not want to kill him. Endless humiliation and despair filled Wen Pin's heart. At this moment, he really wanted to end his own life. However, he was so heavily injured that he couldn't even lift his arm. Even self-destructing had become an extravagant hope. Ha! Such a scoundrel dares to come to the battlefield and embarrass himself? Yuan Shao, don't you have any subordinates? Ha! At this moment, Lu Bu was laughing arrogantly on his horse. Seeing that the 18 warlords were so frightened by him that they did not dare to move forward, his mood was exceptionally good. Not good. Quickly go and get General Wenpin back. Seeing that Wenpin was injured and had fallen from his horse, Yuan Shao immediately ordered his subordinates to rescue him. Wenpin was considered a rare valiant general in his camp. He did not want to lose him in vain. Chapter 1294. Receiving the order, the generals under Yuan Shao's command charged toward the front. Even though they were afraid of Lu Bu, they relied on their advantage in numbers and gathered their courage to attack Lu Bu. Two of them rode their horses toward Wenpin. Seeing so many generals charging toward him, Lu Bu's fighting spirit was ignited. He patted his horse and charged toward them. Relying on their advantage in numbers, a dozen or so generals gathered their courage and began to attack Lu Bu. Good timing. In the next moment, Lu Bu was like a ferocious tiger. He charged into the middle of the enemy generals. Blades flashed and spears flashed. Lu Bu was not afraid of being surrounded by more than a dozen generals. Instead, he had the upper hand. In just a few rounds, 3 of them had fallen from their horses. Seeing Lu Bu's bravery, the others could not help but feel fear. Now that Wenpin had been rescued, they lost their will to fight. In the chaos, one of the generals saw an opportunity and immediately patted his horse to escape toward Yuan Shao's army. His escape immediately caused a chain reaction. The generals that were attacking Lu Bu all followed suit, afraid that they would be slower than others. Immediately after, a very funny scene appeared in front of the 2 armies. Lu Bu, alone, chased after Yuan Shao's army of more than a dozen generals like stray dogs, running away like crazy. As for the generals that were slower, they were all killed by Lu Bu's halberd. When Lu Bu was about to reach Yuan Shao's army, there were only 3 or 4 generals left. In order to save Wenpin, Yuan Shao had lost more than a dozen generals. Now, even Yuan Shao himself did not know whether he had made a loss or not. In the end, Lu Bu stopped not far from Yuan Shao's army. Looking at the few defeated generals that were running back, Lu Bu laughed. Yuan Shao, this is your 18 warlord alliance army? Where did you get so much food and money to raise such a group of trash? Why don't you give me all the money you used to raise your army? I, Lu Fengxian, will guarantee your safety. Lu Bu insulted Yuan Shao with his words. What 18 warlords? What Dongjua alliance army? What a joke. In front of me, Lu Bu, they are just chickens and dogs. I, Lu Bu, am more than enough to deal with this motley crew. Why would I need any reinforcements? In truth, the reason for the current situation was because Yi Chun had recruited most of the famous generals of the 3 kingdoms. Without the support of these capable generals, the 18 vassals were now in such a weak state. Yuan Shao, who was far away from Lu Bu at this moment, his complexion turned red and then white. Because of this, Yuan Shao has suffered heavy losses, his face has been swept to the ground, and his prestige among the warlords has also suffered heavy damage. But now he has no way to deal with Lu Bu, so he can only ask for help from the warlords. Ladies and gentlemen, this thief Lu Bu is so rampant. Who has the confidence to capture him? Cao Cao and the others ignored Yuan Shao's pleading gaze and turned their heads elsewhere. The 18 warlords all had their own thoughts. All of them wanted to preserve their strength and let others fight with their lives on the line. At this moment, who would be willing to fight to the death with Lu Bu, this invincible general? Seeming to have seen through the warlord's thoughts, Yuan Shao looked up to the sky and sighed. He said dejectedly, "Could it be that we, the great 18 warlords alliance army, can't find a single person who can contend against Lu Bu? If we are really defeated by him alone, how can we face others in the future?" Although the warlords knew that Yuan Shao's words were reasonable, no one said anything. Obviously, no one was willing to waste their strength on Lu Bu. Although this was very shameful, the warlords present were all ambitious and ruthless characters. In the end, whether face or strength was more important, they knew better than anyone else. At this moment, a commotion at the front of the formation once again attracted the warlord's attention. It turned out that Zhang Dainyu had returned to the front of the formation. It's him, Zhang Dainyu. He's back. When the warlords saw Zhang Dainyu, it was as if they had seen their backbone. Their morale could not help but be shaken. The warlords also breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Zhang Dainyu had appeared in time. Otherwise, they really did not know how to continue fighting this war. Oh, it's really you. Lu Bu looked at Zhang Dainyu and his horse slowly walking toward him. The arrogance on his face had long since disappeared. Instead, it was replaced with a serious and cautious expression. At this moment, he was quietly standing in the same place, patiently waiting for Zhang Dainyu to walk toward him. The seriousness on his face showed that he valued Zhang Dainyu. In his heart, only an opponent of this level was qualified to exchange blows with him. Lu Bu. Seeing Zhang Dainyu getting closer and closer, Lu Bu actually had a hidden feeling of excitement. Lu Bu knew that this was the feeling of meeting a worthy opponent. Such a good opponent could only be encountered by chance. Lu Bu was very much looking forward to the battle that was about to begin. Is it still that skinny old horse? Is it still that rusty old spear? Zhang Dainyu walked leisurely in front of the formation, turning a blind eye to the people around him. Now, not only would his appearance not be mocked, it would instead make people feel that he was very unfathomable. You're Lu Bu? Arriving in front of Lu Bu, Zhang Dainyu asked in a muffled voice. That's me. Lu Bu cupped his fist and said, May I know how to address this hero? I'm Zhang Dainyu. Today, I'm here to take your dog life. Tell me, how do you want to die? Hearing Zhang Dainyu's words, Lu Bu was stunned. He didn't think that Zhang Dainyu would dare to speak to him like this. Evil creature, you're courting death. A stinky beggar dares to be so disrespectful to me? You deserve to die. Coming back to his senses, Lu Bu was unable to restrain his anger. Immediately, he raised his halberd and thrust it toward Zhang Dainyu's chest. In his rage, Lu Bu used his full strength. This damned bastard in front of him was really too hateful. Lu Bu must kill him as soon as possible. The 18 vassals were also nervously watching this battle from the side. They saw that Lu Bu's terrifying halberd was about to pierce Zhang Dainyu's chest. However, Zhang Dainyu seemed to be in a daze. Facing the opponent's attack, he didn't move at all. Could it be that he was scared silly? Yuan Xiao, Cao Cao, Lu Yu, Gongsun Zan, and the other vassals saw this scene and couldn't help but close their eyes. Although the Zhang Dainyu had some skills, it was all in vain when he met Lu Bu. They knew how powerful Lu Bu was. It seemed that Zhang Dainyu was going to meet his end here today. Sigh. It wasn't easy to meet such a valiant general. Now he's going to die in vain. Yuan Xiao appeared to be even more distressed. It was as if he had lost something that belonged to him. Chapter 1295. Just when everyone thought that Zhang Dainyu was going to die under Lu Bu's halberd, what happened next refreshed the noble's understanding. Lu Bu was indeed powerful. His furious strike was terrifying, and there were very few people in the world who could withstand it. But when this terrifying attack was less than an inch away from Zhang Dainyu's body, Lu Bu's halberd froze for some unknown reason. How is this possible? Lu Bu wanted to kill Zhang Dainyu with one strike, but he suddenly realized that his weapon had stopped in mid-air and was not under his control. Looking closely, he broke out in cold sweat. At this moment, he saw that his sky piercer had been firmly clamped by Zhang Dainyu's 2 fingers. No matter how much strength he used, he could not move it at all. How can this be? How can he be so strong? In extreme shock, Lu Bu had already lost all of the fight. He wanted to pull back his weapon, but he realized that no matter how hard he tried, he could not. In his panic, his entire body was drenched in cold sweat. The 18 nobles waited for a long time, but they did not hear Zhang Dainyu scream. While feeling strange, they all opened their eyes. When they saw this inconceivable scene before them, they were all dumbfounded. Who can tell me what happened just now? Zhang Dainyu's performance was too stunning. Even in their dreams, The feudal lords would never have imagined that he would be this powerful. Even a peerless general like Lu Bu was like a child in front of him, unable to retaliate at all. At the same time, they were wary and wary of Zhang Daniu. The nobles knew that if a person's strength was strong enough, they would not be willing to be ordered around by others. Therefore, they could only compete with Zhang Daniu from now on. Lu Bu realized that he could not take back his weapon, so he immediately turned his horse around and galloped back. Although Lu Bu was the world's #1 general, he was a master who knew how to adjust his helm according to the wind. He already knew that there was a huge difference in strength between him and Zhang Daniu, so he chose to run away at the first opportunity. The red hare was very fast, so Zhang Daniu's thin horse naturally could not catch up. But even if it could, he would not chase. This was all Yi Chen's order. The goal was to not affect the normal development of the plot. Zhang Daniu, mighty! Zhang Daniu, mighty! Zhang Daniu, mighty! Seeing Lu Bu flee back to Hulao Pass, all the soldiers present cheered loudly. They were conquered by Zhang Daniu's invincible heroism. In an instant, Zhang Daniu became the idol of all the soldiers of the alliance. After seizing Lu Bu's weapon, Zhang Daniu returned to the camp in triumph. Along the way, all the soldiers of the alliance army lined the streets to welcome him. The scene was extremely lively, completely overshadowing the attention of the 18 warlords. When they arrived in front of the central tent, the 18 feudal lords came forward to welcome them. Yuan Shao was the first to congratulate him. Brother Zhang is indeed a young hero. Today you have defeated Lu Bu. In the future you will be conferred the title of Marquis. After this battle, Yuan Shao knew that it was impossible for him to recruit Zhang Daniu, so he decided to befriend him. The other vassals also had the same idea as Yuan Shao and came forward to congratulate him. I didn't expect Brother Zhang to be so secretive. Us mortals are all mortals. I hope Brother Zhang can forgive us for looking down on you. Here I have a Fergana horse and a steel spear. I will give them to Brother Zhang as an apology. I hope Brother Zhang won't dislike them. Cao Cao was the first to come forward and express his goodwill to Zhang Daniu. This old fox was very cunning and was very proficient in buying people's hearts. When he said this, Yuan Shao's expression immediately changed. He was very regretful. Why didn't he think of giving gifts earlier? Now that Cao Amon was one step ahead of him, giving gifts would not achieve the desired effect. Realizing his mistake, Yuan Shao was very gloomy. At this moment, a voice suddenly interrupted Cao Cao's words. Brother Cao, aren't you being too stingy? Brother Zhang is such a heroic figure. How can a mere Fergana horse be worthy of him? Also, how can you give him that steel spear? Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? I heard that you have a claw yellow flying lightning, which is a rare and precious horse in the world. You also have a green hornet sword, which is also a rarely seen wonder weapon. Why don't you give them to Brother Zhang? Only these two items are worthy of Brother Zhang's status. When Cao Cao heard this voice, his expression immediately changed. He looked toward the direction of the voice and found that the person who spoke was none other than the governor of Beihai, Tao Qian. Although Cao Cao knew that Tao Qian was deliberately targeting him, he did not show it on his face. Instead, he smiled and asked, Since Lord Tao doesn't like my gifts, you must have something better to give Brother Zhang. Why don't you take it out now and let us all broaden our horizons? Cao Cao originally wanted to counter Tao Qian. However, he did not expect Tao Qian to immediately order his subordinates behind him. Come, bring out my family's meteoric iron spear. Yes. After a while, two subordinates carried out a jet-black spear and presented it to Zhang Daniu. At this moment, Tao Qian said, This spear is called Crow's Thorn. It is made from meteoric iron and has been passed down in my family until now. It has never found a suitable owner. Today, I will give it to Brother Zhang. In the future, it will help Brother Zhang kill bandits on the battlefield and make a name for himself. After saying that, he looked at Cao Cao's direction proudly. Cao Cao did not expect Tao Qian to be so generous in order to befriend Zhang Daniu. He suddenly felt a headache coming on. Now, it seemed that his gift was indeed inferior to Tao Qian's. On the other hand, Yuan Shao, who was standing at the side, was very happy when he saw Cao Cao being humiliated. Chaomon, oh Chaomon, no matter how much effort you put into scheming, in the end, you still ended up with a thankless result. At this moment, everyone looked at Zhang Dainiu at the same time. They all thought that he would choose Tao Qian's gift. However, Zhang Dainiu's reaction made the noble's jaws drop to the ground. When he saw Cao Cao and Tao Qian's gifts, Zhang Dainiu did not even bother to look at them, let alone be tempted. You guys should keep these lousy things for yourselves. I'll just use my broken spear. Although Zhang Dainiu's voice was not loud, the lethality of his words was not small. The moment he said it, everyone was shocked, especially Cao Cao and Tao Qian. They almost fainted from the shock. What lousy things. Is he talking about my gift? When Cao Cao heard that, he felt terrible. Chapter 1296. This was a blatant slap to the face. He humbled himself and gave Cao Cao a gift. In the end, Cao Cao despised him and even scolded him. If it was anyone else, no matter how good their self-restraint was, they would not be able to get over this hurdle in their heart, let alone a narrow-minded person like Cao Cao. You dirty beggar, why don't you take a look at what you have? You are riding a dying, skinny horse that is about to lose all its fur. You only have a broken wooden spear in your hand, and you're still complaining about this and that. You really don't know how to appreciate favors. Although Cao Cao cursed in his heart, the cunning Cao Cao endured it and did not flare up. He continued to smile at Zhang Dainiu. Brother Zhang is right. This Cao was rude. With brother strength, you will definitely have better weapons and treasure horses in the future. I will not embarrass myself. After finding a way out, Cao Cao retreated to the side. When Tao Qian saw Zhang Dainiu's attitude, it seemed like he really did not care about his gift. The knowledgeable Tao Qian thought about it and put the gift away. After this small interlude, all the feudal lords went up to Zhang Dainiu to express their goodwill. There was only one exception, and that was Lu Yu, who was disguised as the leader of the players. The reason why he kept his distance from Zhang Dainiu was that he was afraid that Yi Chan would discover his true identity. After Lu Bu returned to Hulao Pass, he still had lingering fears about the battle earlier. How could that Zhang Dainiu be so terrifying? Now, even my weapon was snatched away. How am I supposed to defend Hulao Pass? When Lu Bu thought of Zhang Dainiu's terrifying strength, he felt very uncertain. He was lucky to have escaped quickly and was not caught. However, what should he do if he met Zhang Dainiu again? It looked like Hulao Pass could not be defended. It was best to retreat to Luoyang as soon as possible. After making up his mind, Lu Bu immediately prepared to retreat. After defeating Lu Bu, Yuan Shao ordered the various armies to hold a celebratory feast. At night, the defense headquarters was very lively. However, during the celebratory feast, the feudal lords discovered that Zhang Dainiu had disappeared again. The next day, after a discussion, the feudal lords decided to attack Hulao Pass while their morale was high. Just as they were discussing, a scout suddenly reported that Hulao Pass was empty. When this news came, the feudal lords couldn't believe it. They immediately sent out a large number of scouts to investigate. In the end, the news that was sent back was the same. Hulao Pass had long since become an empty city. Presumably, Lu Bu was afraid that the allied forces would attack him, so he ran away during the night. When the vassals heard this news, they were both happy and worried. They were happy that no one was guarding Hulao Pass. They could occupy it without expending a single soldier. What he was worried about was that Zhang Dainiu had disappeared again. If they met Lu Bu again in the future, who would be the enemy? On the other hand, Lu Yu, who was disguised as a player, did not consider this. His goal was to recruit these natives under his command. Although the 18 feudal lords all had their own concerns, Hulao Pass was right before them. It was impossible for them not to occupy it. Therefore, after some discussion, the 18 feudal vassals immediately entered Hulao Pass. Finally, Hulao Pass was captured. Everyone knew that Lu Bu Zhua had abandoned Hulao Pass. However, to Yuan Shao, all the victories he had obtained so far were his great achievements. No matter who scared Lu Bu and made him rush to leave Hulao Pass, in the end, it was me, Yuan Shao, who occupied this place. Furthermore, I was the one who initiated the vassal's rescue of the emperor. Thus, all the credit naturally belongs to me. As for the others, it was up to Yuan Shao to decide whether they contributed or not. Yuan Shao's plan to rescue the emperor was about to succeed. The huge contribution was within his grasp. In high spirits, Yuan Shao ordered the army to pursue Lu Bu and take down Luoyang in one fell swoop. Although he said that there was no news of Zhang Dainyu, if they really caught up to Lu Bu's troops, who would fight them to the death. However, Yuan Shao was very cunning. He placed his troops at the back of the army. This way, the feudal lords at the front had no desire to give chase. Just like that, the journey that should have taken 1 day took 3 days to reach their destination. When the Alliance army arrived at Luoyang, they discovered that the entire city was ablaze. It was as if the entire city had sunk into a fiery hell. Cries and screams could be heard from miles away. Because of the late arrival of the coalition army, Dong Zhuo had enough time to forcibly move all the civil and military officials and rich families from Luoyang City to Chang'an. He also took away all the property in Luoyang City that could be taken away and burned the rest that could not be taken away. Hurry and put out the fire. Seeing such a huge fire, Yuan Shao's heart ached so much that he wanted to vomit blood. Even in his dreams, he never imagined that Dong Zhuo would be so deranged. He even dared to burn down Yin City. Luoyang was the richest place in the country. What was being burned was money. Thus, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers that were originally prepared to attack the city became firefighters in the blink of an eye. Under the command of Yuan Shao and the other feudal lords, they began a tiring battle to put out the fire. Under the efforts of the hundreds of thousands of soldiers, some of the fires were finally brought under control. However, in the end, almost half of Luoyang was burned down. There were ruins and dilapidated walls everywhere. However, in the process of putting out the fire, Yuan Shao secretly sent people to Luoyang's imperial palace and stole a portion of the wealth, including the Great Han's imperial jade seal. Although Dong Zhuo had plundered most of Luoyang's wealth, he had been in a hurry for 3 days. There was a lot of wealth that he could not take away in time. Thus, he burned it all. The imperial jade seal that Yuan Shao's troops stole from the imperial palace was the portion of wealth that Dong Zhuo did not take into account in his haste. Yuan Shao was overjoyed to obtain the imperial jade seal. This imperial jade seal was a symbol of imperial power. Whoever possessed this treasure had the qualifications to be called emperor and command the world. After the fire, Cao Cao and the other feudal lords also plundered the city, but they did not obtain much. After learning that Yuan Shao had taken the initiative, Cao Cao was furious but did not show it. At this time, it was indeed not suitable to fall out with Yuan Shao, who was much stronger than him. After Yuan Shao obtained the imperial jade seal, he no longer pursued Dong Zhuo to Chang'an. After lingering in Luoyang for several days, the Alliance army's rations were running out. Thus, Yuan Shao stood out and announced that the Alliance was disbanded. The various feudal lords also left Luoyang and returned to their own territories. Yuan Shao's troops were the last to leave Luoyang. After returning to Jiqing, Yuan Shao immediately announced to the world that he would be enthroned as emperor. Chapter 1297. When the news of Yuan Shao ascending to the throne spread, the world was shocked. After the shock, the various lords were very unhappy about this matter. They thought that Dong Zhuo was shameless enough, but they did not expect Yuan Benshu to be even more shameless than Dong Zhuo. What kind of behavior is this? The great Han royal family is still around, but you dare to openly proclaim yourself emperor? This was simply a rebellion. To be so arrogant, did he really think that all the heroes in the world were fools? In truth, the main reason why the lords were angry was not because they were loyal to the Han royal family, but because they were jealous. Since the great Han royal family was in such a state, The lords had long lost the heart of the subject. Everyone was waiting for the best price to sell their troops. Once there was a chance, everyone wanted to fight for this great country. But now Yuan Shao had actually taken the initiative to proclaim himself emperor. This was simply cutting off the chance for all the lords to fight for the world. So he naturally became the target of public criticism. Soon, the army led by Cao Cao formed once more to suppress Yuan Shao. Although Yuan Shao was strong, he could not withstand the joint attacks of the alliance and quickly fell into a disadvantage on the battlefield. The alliance led by Cao Cao obtained victory after victory on the battlefield, practically suppressing Yuan Shao's troops. Yuan Shao's territory was slowly being nibbled away. The chaotic battle between the lords benefited Dong Zhuo. After returning to Chong, and he continued to do whatever he wanted, causing the people of Chong and to suffer and complain. The civil and military officials were afraid of Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu's abuse of power, so they did not dare to speak out. As the game plot developed, Sita Wang Yun should be using Jiao Chan to seduce Lu Bu and Dong Zhuo to drive a wedge between the father and son. However, since Jiao Chan had already been taken in by Yi Chun, according to the development of the historical plot, Wang Yun recruited another beautiful woman from somewhere to carry out his plan. This woman was called Xiao Dai. She was very pretty and had a petite figure. It could be said that everyone who saw her loved her and pitied her. After confirming his plan, Wang Yun first called Lu Bu to his home for a banquet. During the banquet, Wang Yun had Xiao Dai serve Lu Bu and dance for him. The result was as Wang Yun had expected. When this lecherous Lu Bu saw Little Butterfly, he was simply shocked by her beauty. Even his soul was hooked. Seeing that the time was right, Wang Yun struck while the iron was hot and asked Lu Bu directly, "General, what do you think of my daughter's dance?" Good, good, good. I didn't expect the daughter of the Situ clan to be so beautiful and peerless. Today, I'm lucky enough to have the chance to see her beauty. It's truly a blessing of 3 lifetimes. At this time, Lu Bu was completely infatuated with Little Butterfly. Even when he was talking, his eyes were still on Little Butterfly. Seeing Lu Bu's expression, Wang Yun knew that he was very confident in this matter. Thus, he continued to say, "General may not know, but my daughter is 16 this year and is at the age of marriage. However, because her requirements are too high, she has not been able to find husband. I see that General is young and promising. In the future, you will definitely be a pillar of the country. If you don't mind, I'm willing to entrust my daughter's life to you. What do you think?" When Lu Bu heard this, he was overjoyed and replied excitedly on the spot, "I'm indebted to Lord Situ's favor. What virtue and ability do I have to make Lord Situ think so highly of me? Your daughter's heavenly beauty is naturally what this humble one seeks. However, I don't know what Little Butterfly thinks. General need not worry. In fact, my daughter has long heard of General's deeds and has admired you for a long time. It was also her idea to invite General here today." When Wang Yun saw that Lu Bu had fallen into the trap, he immediately took advantage of the situation and directly asked Little Butterfly, who was dancing, "Daughter, you've seen General Lu Bu today. Do you like him?" When Little Butterfly heard the question, she immediately stopped. At this time, her cheeks were already blushing. Her pair of beautiful eyes were charming and lovely. She did not directly answer Wang Yun's question. Instead, she looked at Lu Bu meaningfully and then lowered her head and covered her face. What does Little Butterfly mean? Lu Bu watched Little Butterfly's figure leave leisurely and asked Wang Situ with apprehension in his heart, "Ha! Congratulations, General. My daughter has agreed. The wedding will be held soon." Seeing that his plan was already half successful, Wang Yun smiled very brightly. "Thank you, father-in-law. I'll go back and prepare now." The following plot of the game was the same as Jiao Chan's drama between Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu. Little Butterfly replaced Jiao Chan's position and played the father and son in circles. Because of jealousy, the hostility between Dong Zhuo and Lu Bu grew bigger and bigger. Finally, one day, Lu Bu could no longer endure it. Thus, he found an opportunity to kill Dong Zhuo in his mansion. With Dongzhu's death, his power instantly fell apart. Wang Yun became the ruler of Chang and city. Because of his meritorious service to the king, Lu Bu was conferred the title of General, Fake Zhu, Minister of Rights, and Marquis of One. Dongzhu's original subordinates were all under Lu Bu's jurisdiction. However, the good times did not last long. Not long after, Dongzhu's old subordinates, Li Chui and Guisi, started a rebellion. 100,000 troops charged into Chang and city and killed Wang Yun's party. Due to Lu Bu's negligence in managing the security organization, he could not organize an effective resistance. He could only escape from Chang and city with Little Butterfly and Song Quan. When Cao Cao heard the news, he immediately sent troops to suppress Li Chui and Guisi in the name of saving the king. After the army arrived in Chang, and Li Chui and Guisi were defeated and Emperor Lu Xie was saved. After that, Cao Cao held the emperor in his hands and ordered the vassals to move Emperor Xian of Han, Lu Xie, to Xuchang. Naturally, the vassals would not submit to Cao Cao's jurisdiction. They continued to fight for territory. Just as the chaotic battle between the vassals was in full swing, Yi Qin's Azure Lotus flag had also been refined. Game World, Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. After refining the Green Lotus flag, Yi Qin opened his eyes slightly. First, he checked the current progress of the game. He knew that the long-planned plan could finally be put into action. Taking out the ancient contract book, Yi Qin quickly found the name of Emperor Xian of Han, Lu Xie. Previously, Yi Qin had already taken Lu Xie as his slave. He could control his life and death at any time. With a thought, Lu Xie's name was completely erased from the contract book. At the same time, in the Xuchang Palace thousands of miles away, Lu Xie, who was playing with the palace maids, suddenly fell to the ground and did not move. "Your Majesty, what happened to you?" Seeing Lu Xie fall, the palace maids were frightened and went to check on him. When they saw Lu Xie's pale face and lifeless appearance, they were so frightened that they turned pale. They screamed and went to find the steward eunuch. Soon, the steward eunuch was found by the palace maids. When he saw Lu Xie's complexion, he felt that something was wrong. After checking his breath, he was shocked. "Quick, go and report to the Prime Minister. The Emperor has passed away." Chapter 1298. As soon as the Emperor died, the Xuchang Palace was in chaos. Cao Cao was caught off guard. His original plan was to control the Emperor and order the vassals. But now that the Emperor was dead, what else could he rely on? After knowing the news, Cao Cao ordered all the insiders not to leak the news and killed all the eunuchs and maids in the palace. However, no matter how secretive he was, the news of Lu Xie's death was still leaked out. Of course, it was not Cao Cao's men who spread the news. His killing was very effective. The person who spread this news to the world was Yi Qin. The reason why he wanted Lu Xie to die was to make Cao Cao the scapegoat of regicide and become the target of public criticism. Sure enough, after knowing that Cao Cao killed Emperor Lu Xie, all the vassals were filled with righteous indignation. They all said that they wanted to kill the regicide with their own hands. Cao Cao, on the other hand, was unable to defend himself against this. He could only suffer in silence. In the current situation, even if he could persuade the dead to come back to life, he could not clear himself of suspicion. The vassals only wanted an excuse to send troops. Who would really care about the life of a puppet emperor? Cao Cao, who originally had a good situation, became a rat in the street. Everyone wanted to beat him. The situation on the battlefield was getting worse for him. Just when Cao Cao was exhausted to defend his territory, Yi Qin was also preparing to send troops. He first ordered people to write a declaration of war against Cao Cao, putting the crime of murdering Emperor Lu Xie on Cao Cao. Then, the declaration was announced to the world and officially joined the fight. When the news came out, the world was shocked. The vassals who were fighting each other stopped. Everyone was in a state of panic, afraid that Yi Qin would attack them. It couldn't be helped. Everyone knew how strong Yi Qin was. There was no one who wasn't afraid, worried, or terrified. The vassals knew that if Yi Chun really sent troops to save the emperor, it would be fine. But if he had the same purpose as them, it would not be over. Not long after the declaration was released, Yi Chun ordered the army of Samsara Immortal City to set off from Samsara City and rush to the vassals' territories. Everywhere they passed, dust billowed and the sound of hooves shook the sky. Su Changcheng. When Cao Cao saw Yi Chen's declaration of war, he immediately recalled all his troops and prepared to defend Xuchang to the death. Right now, the entire Xuchang city had become a huge security headquarters. There was a sentry every 3 steps and a sentry every 5 steps. The security was so tight that not even a fly could fly in. On the city walls, hundreds of thousands of soldiers rested on their spears, ready for battle at any moment. The army of the Reincarnation Immortal City split into 10 groups and attacked all the vassals at the same time. This time, the ones in charge of attacking Cao Cao were the troops led by Guan Yu, Zhao Yun, and the others. Li Dian, Xiahou Chun, Xiahou Yuan, and the other generals stood on the city wall, looking at the distant horizon with grave expressions. Rumble, the 200,000 soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City, soon appeared in their field of vision as the sound of hooves thundered in the air. The army of Samsara City was moving too fast. It was as if they were moving as fast as lightning. Every soldier was so powerful. The 200,000 soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City were all mortal evolution states. During the charge, their powerful chi gathered together, forming an extremely powerful pressure. Originally, the soldiers of Xuchang City were all brave and experienced soldiers. Before they saw the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, they were still very unconvinced. But now that they truly saw the invincible formation of the Reincarnation Immortal City, they were already drenched in cold sweat. Just this powerful pressure from the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was enough to crush their confidence. When had they ever seen such a defense organization? Look at their shining golden armors, their weapons, their war horses, then look at their own armor and weapons. It was like heaven and earth. Moreover, these soldiers could sense that every soldier from the Reincarnation Immortal City who was charging at them was much stronger than them. With such a huge difference in power, how could they fight this battle? On the city walls of Xuchang City, some cowardly soldiers were already preparing to flee. Fight to the death with such an invincible defense organization? What a joke! I haven't lived long enough. This kind of panic also affected the generals on the city wall at this time. Li Jian looked at the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City that was getting closer and closer. With sweat dripping down his forehead, he asked the main general, Xiahou Chun, "General, can our army defend this battle?" Before Xiahou Chun could speak, Xiahou Yuan roared, "We have to defend even if we can't. Whoever dares to escape, I'll be the first to kill him." Hearing this, Li Jian shrunk his neck and lost even more confidence in this battle. At this moment, Xiahou Chun seemed to have seen through the soldiers' thoughts. He said to Li Jian and the other generals, "You have to know that when Yi Chen sent out the declaration of war against Cao Gong, we were already destined to fight to the death with him. The other dukes can surrender, but we can't. We followed the prime minister for so many years. Cao Gong has led us for so long. Today we must repay Cao Gong's kindness with our lives. Anyone who dares to retreat will be killed without mercy." As soon as Xiahou Chun said this, the generals and soldiers who originally wanted to flee were even more determined. At this moment, Cao Cao also arrived on the city walls. "The Prime Minister has arrived." Under the announcement of the messenger, all the generals came forward to greet him. "Greetings, Prime Minister." When the generals saw Cao Cao, they all knelt down. "Everyone, please get up. Please get up." At this critical moment, Cao Cao once again displayed his ability to win people's hearts. As he spoke, he personally went forward to help each general up. He was like a loving father treating his own son. His expression was abnormally gentle. After all the generals stood up, Cao Cao once again used his unique skill of stirring up emotions. "Generals, You've all followed me for so many years. It's been hard on you. Now that Xu Chang is surrounded by Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army, it's fortunate that you didn't abandon me. I believe that with our common enemy, we can defend Xu Chang and defeat the enemy. After saying this, seeing that none of the generals responded to him, Cao Cao asked all the generals, "Are you confident?" "Prime Minister, we believe that we can defend Xu Chang in this battle and annihilate the enemy." "Yes, yes. As long as the Prime Minister plans in the city, it doesn't matter how many people come from Reincarnation Immortal City." "That's right. Prime Minister, just wait and see." When Cao Cao asked this, no one dared to disagree. Thus, all the generals began to express their determination. Everyone put on a confident look. However, only they themselves knew how insincere their words were. Chapter 1299. After the generals expressed their determination, Cao Cao went to the battlements to observe the situation on the battlefield. When he saw the invincible army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, all his previous fantasies were thrown out of the window. Is this also a human defense organization? How can they be so strong? Shock, unwillingness, regret, and other emotions surged in Cao Cao's heart at the same time. He had mixed feelings. This was the end of a hero's road. He did not expect to have such a day. He could not imagine how long his troops could last if such a defense organization attacked the city walls. 1 day, 2 days, or was it 2 hours? 4 hours? God, why is this happening? I've worked hard for half of my life, and everything I've gained is not even comparable to Yi Chen's. How can he crush me with his little finger? Damn God, why are you being so unfair? Cao Cao realized that he had lost the battle. Although he was extremely bitter, he did not show it on his face. After coming down from the city walls, he immediately ordered his trusted subordinates to pack their bags and get ready to escape. Cao Cao had always been unscrupulous. At this critical moment, he naturally did not care about the lives of his subordinates. As long as they could escape, it would be worth it even if all the soldiers died here. Reincarnation Immortal City's army arrived outside the city. Guan Yu and Zhao Yun were the first to charge. They did not waste any time. Once they arrived at the city gates, they immediately attacked the city walls. Throughout the entire process, they did not call for battle, ask for surrender, scheme, or threaten. Because there was no need, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was extremely powerful. What they needed to do was to crush all the enemies in front of them. In the next moment, 2 extremely powerful shockwaves were released from Guan Yu and Zhao Yun's weapons. They crossed a distance of 100 meters and blasted on the city walls. Boom! Boom! 2 incomparably powerful attacks directly blasted 2 huge holes in the tall city wall in an instant. Attack the city. Kill. Under Guan Yu and Zhao Yun's orders, the 200,000 soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City surged into Xu Chang City like a flash flood. Arrows, crossbows, rolling logs, and rocks were useless against the invincible army of the Reincarnation Immortal City. The Xu Chang guards on the city walls had long been scared silly by this despairing scene. Now, even the strong-willed commander, Xiahou Chun, had begun to retreat. But it was too late. Guan Yu and Zhao Yun had already discovered them. With a leap, they flew to the top of the city wall and began a massacre of these generals. Xiahou Chun was originally a general of the same level as Zhao Yun. Although he knew that Zhao Yun was no longer the same as before, he still wanted to spar with him. "Zhao Yun, let me take you on." As soon as Xiahou Chun said this, before he could get into position, he suddenly saw a flash of white light in front of him. Then, like a statue, he stood motionless on the spot. After a while, the standing Xiahou Chun's body was suddenly split in half from the middle. Blood and internal organs instantly splattered all over the ground. The famous General Xiahou Chun was mysteriously split into 2 by Zhao Yun. Even at the moment of his death, he did not understand how Zhao Yun had attacked. After Guan Yu reached the top of the city wall, he was like a tiger in a flock of sheep. He chased after the generals guarding the city and killed them. In an instant, There was a storm of blood on the city wall. Countless heads fell to the ground with every slash of Guan Yu's sword. Li Jian was chased until he could no longer run. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed to him, begging for mercy. General Guan, I didn't have a choice before. I beg you to forgive me. You'd better die. Guan Yu was indifferent to his begging. With a slash, he cut Li Jian in half. Ouch! Countless horrifying screams filled the top of the city wall. This place had already turned into a bloody hell. At this time, the 200,000 soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City had already killed their way into the city. Cao Cao's hundreds of thousands of soldiers were completely powerless against their tyrannical attacks. Blood dyed the ground red. The corpses of the soldiers guarding the city covered the streets and alleys in the city, tragic. No matter how Cao Cao's soldiers begged for mercy, the soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City were like murderous gods from hell. They showed no mercy. No matter if you were resisting or not, no matter if you were a threat or not, no matter if you were running away or not, they would still crush you with their horses. They would hack the enemy to death, shoot them to death, and poke them to death. Incomparably tragic screams and cries reverberated in the sky above Xuchang City. The hellish scene was unbearable to look at. Cao Cao led his trusted guards and disguised as ordinary soldiers. He mixed with the defeated soldiers and wanted to sneak out of the city. However, after going back and forth for more than 10 times, he realized that Reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers were everywhere. The entire Xuchang City was surrounded like an iron bucket. Even if he had wings, he could not fly out. What should he do? Cao Cao followed the defeated soldiers everywhere and felt more and more hopeless. The encirclement of Reincarnation Immortal City's army was getting smaller and smaller. It was also getting harder and harder to find a place to hide in the city. Am I, Cao Cao, really going to die here today? Do the heavens really want me to die? When they were chased out a small alley, they coincidentally met Guan Yu, who was passing by. Protect the Prime Minister and retreat. Hundreds of soldiers saw this and tried their best to break out of the encirclement. They wanted to kill their way out for Cao Cao. However, their attacks could not do anything to the soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City at all. Whether it was in terms of equipment or personal strength, they were too inferior. Even so, these Qin soldiers would rather die than retreat. They charged forward dauntlessly and continuously used their flesh and blood to prove the sharpness of the weapons in the hands of Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers. The strange movement here also attracted Guan Yu's attention. He rode his horse forward and saw the person who was being protected among the hundreds of Cao soldiers. Who else could it be if it was not Cao Cao? Although Cao Cao had disguised himself as an ordinary soldier, how could he hide from Guan Yu's golden eyes, fiery eyes? He immediately patted his horse and charged into the crowd of enemies. Evil Cao Cao, you want to run? You have no chance. When Cao Cao saw that it was Guan Yu who was charging at him, he was so scared that he almost jumped to heaven. In order to survive, he desperately tried to escape. However, how could he escape from Guan Yu's pursuit? Evil Cao die. Chapter 1300. No. Before he died, Cao Cao let out a desperate cry. Puffed. Guan Yu raised his saber and chopped down. A head rolled down to the ground. At this point, one of the most promising heroes in the 3 kingdoms had fallen. He was supposed to be the pride of the heavens, but now he had become a ghost under the sword. Cao Cao died with grievance and unwillingness. Even in death, his eyes were still wide open as if he was questioning the heavens. Why do they treat him like this? In the game world, Yi City, ever since Yuan Shao became the emperor, he had been attacked by the vassals. His strength was not as strong as before. However, as the saying goes, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. Although he had suffered many setbacks, he still controlled most of the territory in Ji City. After Yi Chun sent out the declaration of war against Cao Cao, the vassals who were attacking Yuan Shao all retreated. However, Yuan Shao did not feel happy about this. On the contrary, he became more worried. The peaceful days in the past few days did not give him any sense of security. Instead, he felt that it was the calm before the storm. As it turned out, his premonition was very accurate. Almost at the same time, when they attacked Cao Cao, Huang Zhong and Ma Chao led 200,000 soldiers from Reincarnation Immortal City and charged toward Yi City aggressively. Report: Yuan Shao was discussing military affairs with his strategist in the palace when he suddenly received an urgent report from a messenger. General, Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army suddenly appeared outside Yi City. It seems that they are here to take over Yi City. What? It's finally here. Yuan Shao's face darkened when he heard the report. What he had been worried about had finally happened. Yi Chen had indeed raised his sword against the vassals in the name of protecting the emperor. Although he was mentally prepared for this, he did not expect the Reincarnation Immortal City's army to come so quickly. They did not give him any time to breathe. What should he do? Yuan Shao was now in a dilemma. He knew that the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was very powerful. His own army might not be able to defend Yi City. However, was he going to give up all his hard work just like that? He really couldn't bear to part with it. This was his life's work. How could he give it away so easily? Unless the other party was extremely powerful, so powerful that no one dared to resist. Unfortunately, Yi Chen was that enemy who was so powerful that no one dared to resist him. At this time, the strategists present saw that Yuan Shao seemed to have sunk into a dilemma. These people knew Yuan Shao's indecisive personality, so they all went forward to persuade him to surrender in order to survive. General Yuan, Yi Chen is too powerful and cannot be defeated by force. As the saying goes, where there is life, there is hope. General, you have to make a decision quickly. If you are too slow, it will be too late to surrender when the time comes. That's right, my lord. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Why don't we pretend to surrender first and think of a way to make a comeback in the future? My lord, please make a decision quickly. I'm afraid it's too late, my lord. These strategists were like ghosts. In order for them to survive, they almost used force to force Yuan Shao to surrender. Everyone was waiting for Yuan Shao's reaction. Their anxious eyes had already betrayed them. Yuan Shao looked at the ugly faces of these courtiers who used to flatter him on a daily basis. At this moment, he seemed to understand a lot of things. Sure enough, it was easy to add flowers to brocade, but difficult to send charcoal in snowy weather. This big tree, haven't fallen yet. Are you monkeys ready to disband? Although his heart was filled with anger and unwillingness, his reason told him that the only thing he could do now was to surrender. Next, Yuan Shao sighed painfully. He closed his eyes and said with a frown, "In this case, let's do as everyone says. Order the city guards to open the city gate, raise the white flag, and prepare to surrender the city." Outside Yi City, when Huang Zhong and Ma Chao led the 200,000 soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City to Yi City, they couldn't help but feel strange when they saw the white flags on the city wall and the open city gate. Was Yuan Shao going to surrender with the whole city? Just as they were puzzled, they saw a young general leading a group of cavalrymen and flying toward them with a white flag. Are they the troops of Yi Yu of Gojoseon from Reincarnation Immortal City? When the young general came close, he said to Huang Zhong and Ma Chao, "My lord has decided to surrender the city. I am here to welcome the army of Reincarnation Immortal City into the city under the orders of my lord." Hearing the young general's words, Huang Zhong and Ma Chao looked at each other and didn't answer. What a joke. If they accepted the surrender, they could forget about killing Yuan Shao. This was the thought of Huang Zhong and Ma Chao together. This time, the army of Reincarnation Immortal City had received the order to kill all the vassals and not accept any surrender. No matter if they resisted or not, they had to kill all of them. This was Yi Chen's order. Who dared to change it? Seeing that the two of them didn't speak, the young general was puzzled. So he continued, "Generals, I am here to welcome you into the city to surrender under the orders of my lord. No need to trouble yourself. We can kill our way over." Huang Zhong replied calmly and then raised the saber in his hand. What? The young general thought that he had heard wrongly and was dumbfounded. Kill your way over? Are you kidding me? We are about to surrender. Are you going to kill all of us? This is too overbearing, too cruel, too inhumane. Are you still human? If you are human, why can't you understand human language? I clearly said that I want to surrender. You, why are you raising your saber? Are you going to kill me? When two countries are at war, they don't kill the envoys. I'm here to show you the way. How can you kill me? Is there any justice in this world? No, don't kill me. Seeing Huang Zhong's saber slashing toward him, the young general realized that he was serious. Before he died, the young general screamed and wanted to escape back into the city. But how could Huang Zhong's saber technique be so easy to dodge? The invincible saber was as fast as lightning. That young general didn't even see how Huang Zhong made his move. He only felt his head fly up high in an instant. He lost consciousness in the midst of the clouds and mist. Throughout the entire process, he didn't even have the time to scream before he died. The cavalry that followed the young general were scared out of their wits when they saw that their general was killed. They immediately turned their horses around and fled into the city. As he ran, he shouted in despair, "Run! The army of Reincarnation City is killing people. They don't accept surrender. They don't accept surrender." Chapter 1301. Huang Zhong and Ma Chao smiled at each other when they saw Yi City soldiers fleeing back into the city. Then, they raised their weapons and shouted, "Attack! Kill!" In the next moment, 200,000 soldiers from Reincarnation Immortal City charged toward Yi City like a tsunami. Wherever they passed, they destroyed everything in their path. Yuan Shao was waiting in the palace to welcome the general of Reincarnation Immortal City. However, just as he was about to hand over the city, a strategist ran into the palace in a hurry. "My lord, something bad has happened. The general of Reincarnation Immortal City won't accept surrender. He's charging toward the palace." Yuan Shao's legs turned to jelly when he heard this unbearable news. He knelt on the ground. "How can this be? What should I do?" Yuan Shao, who was already weak, had no idea what to do now. He slumped on the ground and couldn't care less about his bearing and status. Does the heavens want my Yuan clan to die? What did I, Yuan Shao, do wrong? God, why are you punishing me like this? Boo-hoo! Yuan Shao finally broke down in despair and started to cry loudly. The strategist couldn't stand it anymore and said, "My lord, now's not the time to cry. Let's run for our lives while there's still time." Yuan Shao finally came to his senses after the strategist's reminder. He hurriedly gathered his soldiers and fled out of the city. In their panic, they didn't even bring their clothes. Hundreds of them were in a sorry state and looked like stray dogs. However, when they reached the streets, they realized that Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers were everywhere in Yi City. No matter where they ran, they couldn't break through the siege of Reincarnation Immortal City's army. The soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City didn't care if they wanted to surrender or continue to resist. As long as they found out that they were Yi City soldiers, they would only end up dead. The entire city was filled with people fleeing for their lives. Since they were prepared to surrender from the start, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers in Yi City weren't prepared for battle. As a result, they could only be hunted down and slaughtered when Reincarnation Immortal City's army entered the city. However, even if they were well prepared, they were no match for Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Yuan Shao's heart bled as he watched his soldiers being slaughtered by the army of Reincarnation Immortal City. At this moment, he was filled with regret. If he knew this would happen, he wouldn't have made the decision to surrender. Even if he couldn't defeat the army of Reincarnation Immortal City in the end, it was still more dignified to die standing than to be killed. Don't kill me." Many soldiers of Yi City knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. They kept on kowtowing to the pursuing soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City. However, their pleas were of no use. They only hastened their deaths. The soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City harvested their lives mercilessly. They were indifferent to their enemies' pleas for mercy. They were only loyal to one person, Yichun. Whatever Yichun asked them to do, they would do it without hesitation and 100% without any compromise. If Yichun wanted these people dead, then none of them could live. Cold, merciless, and iron-like discipline were the common characteristics of all the soldiers of Reincarnation Immortal City. They were invincible and invincible. Every one of them would go through water and tread on fire for Yichun's orders. Even if it was the sea of purgatory flames, they wouldn't hesitate to cross it. Even if they had to become murderous and inhumane executioners, they wouldn't even frown and would resolutely carry out their orders. Seeing that begging for mercy was useless, the soldiers of Yi City began to run around the city like headless flies, trying to find a way out. However, they soon realized that this was an impossible task. The entire Yi City was now surrounded by Reincarnation Immortal City's army. As the encirclement shrank, the remaining soldiers had less space to move. It was impossible for them to escape. In desperation, many of them chose to self-destruct. The entire city was filled with wails and cries. Blood flowed like a river. Broken corpses of the soldiers of Yi City were everywhere. They were strewn all over the streets and alleys. Screams, cries for mercy, and cries of despair rose and fell one after another, continuous and unending. It was too tragic. Half a day ago, this was still a bustling city. In the blink of an eye, it had become hell on earth. It was even more terrifying than hell. Yuan Shao's personal guards were still looking for a way out of the city. Looking at the corpses all over the place, Yuan Shao was so scared that his face was drained of blood. In his extreme fear, he kept praying to the heavens. Heavens, I beg you, let me escape. I don't want to die. Although these vassals were usually high and mighty, they were actually more afraid of death than anyone else. If he could escape alive, he would probably agree to call any of the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers father. Huang Zhong had killed countless enemies along the way. However, he found it strange that he still hadn't found Yuan Shao's whereabouts. He had even searched the palace. However, other than some concubines, eunuchs, and palace maids, there was no one else. Huang Zhong guessed that Yuan Shao must have disguised himself as an ordinary person and blended into the chaotic army to escape the city. Therefore, he came out of the palace and started to lead a group of soldiers to conduct a carpet search in the city. Just as he passed by a civilian house, a few hundred people from the Reincarnation Immortal City's defense team attracted his attention. Something's wrong. He realized that this team was too special. Moreover, some of the soldiers in the team looked very weak. It was obvious that someone had disguised himself. Therefore, he led his soldiers to surround them. Yuan Shao was praying to the gods and Buddhas for protection. Now that he suddenly saw a team of Reincarnation Immortal City's defense team surrounding them, he was so scared that he started to shiver and kept quiet out of fear. Quick, the enemy is coming. Protect the Lord and retreat. Following the command of the general, a group of soldiers immediately led Yuan Shao and a few others to escape from this place. At this moment, their voices reached Huang Zhong's ears. Huang Zhong instantly realized that the person who was addressed as the Lord was most likely Yuan Shao. Yuan Shao, you are really cunning. Do you think you can escape from my tight encirclement like this? Then, Huang Zhong immediately gave the order to charge. The enemy's general is in front of us. Boys, charge with me and kill the enemy's general. Kill. In the next moment, hundreds of Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers and Huang Zhong charged into the enemy's camp like lightning. Chapter 1302. Those soldiers still wanted to put up a resistance. But how could they be a match for the soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City? Both sides approached each other, and in just one exchange, all of Yuan Shao's soldiers were chopped into countless pieces. Blood splattered everywhere, and minced meat flew everywhere. The scene was so tragic that it made one's scalp tingle, and one could not bear to look at it directly. After a short battle, hundreds of Yuan Shao soldiers were cruelly killed, leaving only a ground full of broken limbs and minced meat. Yuan Shao and his strategists were already scared out of their wits when they saw the tragic scene in front of them. He trembled as he begged Huang Zhong for mercy. "General, as long as you are willing to let me go, I will give you all of my assets and women. I only beg you to spare my life." However, when Huang Zhong heard that, he was instantly enraged. "You want to bribe me? Yuan Shao, don't think too much. Just accept your death obediently." After saying that, Huang Zhong swung the sword in his hand and mercilessly chopped down on Yuan Shao's head. "No! In extreme despair and fear, Yuan Shao finally died under Huang Zhong's sword. He was once an ambitious and ruthless person, an all-powerful figure. Standing at the top, he looked down on all living things, and countless lives were once in his hands. A casual thought from him could decide the life and death of many people. But now, he had died without a complete corpse. As the saying goes, life is bitter and short, and the affairs of the world are unpredictable. After killing Yuan Shao, Huang Zhong found the imperial jade seal that he carried with him. After returning to the reincarnation immortal city, he called it over to Yichun. Yichun looked at the imperial ruler's seal and felt the boundless spiritual energy and fate that it emitted. At this moment, he realized that he had obtained another treasure. No wonder this imperial jade seal had been passed down from the spring and autumn warring states period until now, and it was still an item that the feudal lords of the world desperately fought for. Such an item with great fortune, whoever obtained it would definitely have a smooth journey and eventually ascend to the throne. This item would definitely be of great use when he ascended the throne in the future. Therefore, Yichun was also very happy. Therefore, he gave Huang Zhong and Ma Chao many rewards. After receiving Yichun's reward, the two of them were moved to tears. Then, they once again led the reincarnation immortal city's army and continued their journey to wipe out the feudal lords. Game World, Peng Chengxing City. After Lu Bu's defeat in Chong, he came here with Xiao Dai. Originally, he wanted to recruit and buy horses here to strengthen himself. However, they did not expect that Yi Chan would actually issue a declaration of war against Cao Cao. Everyone in the world felt insecure, and no one dared to act blindly without thinking. Only Lu Bu did not take this matter to heart. In addition to having fun with Xiao Dai every day, he also wantonly recruited soldiers and bought horses, preparing for a big fight. On this day, Lu Bu and Xiao Dai were making love in their room. Suddenly, they heard someone reporting outside the door. "General Lu, something bad has happened. The reincarnation immortal city's army is attacking our Peng city." Lu Bu, who was in the room, was originally in high spirits. However, when he heard this news, his entire body trembled and went limp. After a short while, Lu Bu put on his clothes and came out. He asked the general who reported the news, "What's going on? Didn't the reincarnation immortal city's army go to fight Cao Cao? Why did they suddenly come here?" It was said that Lu Bu was brave, but not resourceful and simple-minded. It seemed that these words were not groundless. Yi Chun did want to suppress Cao Cao, but he did not say that he would not attack other feudal lords. Even if you were really an idiot in politics and did not know what Yi Chun was thinking. However, didn't you see that during this period of time, all the feudal lords had stopped? Lu Bu did not understand such an obvious situation and did not make any preparations. Now that the reincarnation immortal city's army had arrived, Lu Bu immediately fell into a dilemma. What should I do? Lu Bu was so anxious that sweat appeared on his forehead. The newly recruited soldiers were not fully equipped with weapons and armor. If a troop that lacked training really went to the battlefield, they would only be destroyed. Although Lu Bu was very brave, he still knew the strength of the reincarnation immortal city's army. Even if he was an idiot, he would not be arrogant in front of the reincarnation immortal city's army. This damned Yi Chun, why did he choose to attack me when there are so many other feudal lords? Lu Bu was so depressed that he wanted to die. He still did not know that the reincarnation immortal city's army was sweeping the feudal lords in order to unify the world. Looking at Xiao Dai beside him, Lu Bu's eyes became gentle again. Xiao Dai, quickly, pack up your belongings and be ready to leave with me at any time. Lu Bu had decided that if he could not defend Peng Changsheng, he would escape with Xiao Dai. This time, the ones in charge of attacking Lu Bu were Zhang Fei and Su Chu. Their army moved very quickly. Before Lu Bu could react, they had already surrounded Peng Changsheng. It was harder for the people inside to get out than to climb up to the sky. After Lu Bu climbed up the city wall, he saw the fierce reincarnation Immortal City's army below. Each of them was full of energy and fighting spirit, and he suddenly lost the thought of resisting. What a joke, to fight to the death with such a powerful and invincible defense organization. Was he tired of living? Now, he no longer had any hope of defending Peng Changsheng. He only wanted to escape with Xiao Dai and live a carefree life. Taking advantage of the fact that the reincarnation Immortal City's army had not yet reached the city, Lu Bu told the soldiers that he would live and die with the city and immediately rushed back home. At this time, Xiao Dai had already packed up. When Lu Bu saw her, he did not waste any time and immediately brought Xiao Dai out of the city. There were only a few dozen cavalrymen following them. Along the way, Lu Bu brought Xiao Dai as fast as lightning, afraid that they would be blocked by the reincarnation Immortal City's army if they were too slow. Just as they approached the city gate, they suddenly heard a burst of blood-curdling screams outside the city. It turned out that the reincarnation Immortal City's army had already arrived here and had begun to attack the city. Seeing that he was only one step away from leaving the battlefield, Lu Bu's depression and despair exploded at the same time. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Seeing a large number of reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers pouring into Peng Changsheng, Lu Bu immediately turned his horse around and led everyone into the city. Kill! Zhang Fei and Su Chu led the troops and rushed to the front of the army. Everywhere they passed, not even a blade of grass was left alive. Run! Lu Bu was afraid that he would be surrounded by the enemy if he ran too slow. At this time, he did not even care about Xiao Dai and only cared about himself. Look, isn't that Lu Bu? A group of reincarnation Immortal City soldiers who had just rushed into the city saw Lu Bu's appearance and immediately exploded. That's right, it's him. Chapter 1303. Go after him. Seeing Lu Bu, the soldiers immediately urged their horses to chase after him. Zhang Ida of Yen is here. Lu Bu, where are you going? At this moment, Zhang Fei also noticed Lu Bu, who was desperately trying to escape. He immediately turned his horse around and blocked Lu Bu's path. Stop! Seeing Zhang Fei blocking his way, Lu Bu knew there was nowhere to run. He immediately pulled the reins to stop the horse. General Zhang, why are you stopping me? I have no grudge against Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Why are you making things difficult for me? Lu Bu really did not want to fight with Zhang Fei. He could only reason with Zhang Fei first. Humph! Why are you talking so much nonsense? If the Lord wants you to die, you must die. Why are you asking so many questions? Zhang Fei had heard about Lu Bu's character, so he did not have a good attitude toward him. Hearing this, Lu Bu trembled with anger. However, he endured it for the sake of his own life. Then he asked humbly, I know Yi Yu of Gojoseon also wants to dominate the world. If he likes me, I am willing to take him as my godfather. From then on, I will do everything I can to serve Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Bah! Hearing this, Zhang Fei simply snorted and mocked him with disgust. Reincarnation Immortal City is full of talents. We don't need a spineless person like you. How can a lowly person like you be Yi Yu of Gojoseon's godson? What a joke. Ha 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 ha. Zhang Fei's words immediately caused the soldiers of Reincarnation City to burst into laughter. At this time, Lu Bu's face had been swept to the ground. He was extremely ashamed and angry. Seeing that his flattery had failed, he finally decided to use his own strength to fight for a way out. In that case, don't blame me for being rude. After saying that, Lu Bu raised the halberd in his hand and urged his horse to charge toward Zhang Fei. His plan was to capture the leader first. As long as he captured Zhang Fei first, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break out of the siege. However, while dreams were plentiful, reality was harsh. Lu Bu's strength was far from Zhang Fei's. Seeing Lu Bu coming for him, Zhang Fei revealed a playful expression. "Good. Grandpa will send you on your way." Zhang Fei roared. The serpent spear in his hand suddenly turned into a dazzling stream of light and swept toward the charging Lu Bu in an overbearing manner. This attack was simply too fast. It was impossible for the naked eye to see how Zhang Fei attacked. Lu Bu, who was rushing forward at top speed, did not expect Zhang Fei's attack to be so fast. It was so fast that he did not even have time to react. He only felt a blur in front of his eyes before the whole world suddenly flipped upside down. Only when Lu Bu's head flew into the sky did he realize that something was wrong. Am I dead? This thought only lasted for a few seconds. As Lu Bu's head fell to the ground, his consciousness also completely dissipated. Looking at Lu Bu's head on the ground, Zhang Fei spat in disgust. He then said domineeringly, "How dare this trash call himself the best in the world? Pooh, why don't you go to heaven?" After wiping out the rest of Yuan Shao's personal guards and strategists, Zhang Fei led his men and left the area. The god of war, known as the best general in the world, Lu Bu, died so sullenly. Once upon a time, he was so dazzling that he could blind the eyes of the world. At that time, did he ever think that he would have such a day? The 10 armies of reincarnation Immortal City swept through the world within a day. Everywhere they went, not a single force could last more than 2 hours. They carried out Yi Qin's orders 100%. None of the forces of the feudal lords were spared. They did not accept surrenders or negotiations. As long as you were a feudal lord, there was only one ending, and that was death. Under their continuous sweep, all the forces and leaders in the history of the 3 kingdoms were wiped out within a day. In the process of wiping out the feudal lords, the leader of the player force who disguised himself as Lu Yu also revealed his identity as a player. After killing him, the general in charge of the area reported this situation to Yi Chun. After Yi Chun knew about it, he did not comment on it. With his current strength, he could completely ignore these player forces. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks were useless. Therefore, Yi Chun did not care much about this matter. The reason why he decided to wipe out all the feudal lords was not because he had a grudge against them, nor was it because they had offended him. It was because Yi Chun wanted to seize the last bit of fate from the world of the 3 kingdoms. Then, he would ascend to the throne and establish a dynasty of fate. Only in this way, Yi Qin's reincarnation Immortal City would have the greatest capital to survive after ascending to the Eldritch world. Me killing you has nothing to do with you. This sentence was the true portrayal of all the feudal lords at the moment. The most unlucky thing for them was that they were in the same world as a heaven-defying monster like Yi Chun. From the beginning, they were destined to have a tragic ending. After the last feudal lord was wiped out, Yi Chun, who was sitting firmly in the reincarnation Immortal City, also sensed that all the fate from the world was crazily surging towards him at the same time. This feeling was very mysterious. Luck was something that had no shape or form. It was illusory and untouchable. It was very fickle and unpredictable. However, Yi Chun could clearly sense that the most mysterious and unpredictable fate in the world was actually transforming into gusts of fate astral wind that were constantly gathering in his body. At this moment, he could clearly feel the astral wind of fate astral wind blowing across his skin. At the same time, an indescribable pleasure rose in his heart. This strange feeling that he had never experienced before made Yi Chun intoxicated. He lingered and could not stop even if he wanted to, as more and more fate astral wind gathered. A vortex of fate astral wind was gradually formed with Yi Chun as the center. This vortex of fate astral wind expanded rapidly within the reincarnation Immortal City. Very quickly, It formed a huge sea of clouds that was completely formed by fate astral wind. Not long after, the sea of clouds that was completely formed by fate astral wind engulfed the entire reincarnation immortal city, and its range was still expanding. At this moment, regardless of whether it was the people in the reincarnation immortal city or the players and natives in the East region, they all saw the shocking phenomenon in the sky. This was especially so for the players in the East region. At this moment, they were staring at the reincarnation immortal city in the sky and the huge clouds that engulfed the reincarnation immortal city. All of them were dumbfounded, and all kinds of guesses came one after another. Oh my God, what am I seeing? What is Yu of Gojosian doing now? Wow, heaven and earth phenomenon. It's too spectacular. Everyone, come and take a look. This is the first time I've seen such a strange phenomenon since I entered the game. Is Yu of Gojosian doing something big again? Chapter 1304. The citizens and soldiers in the reincarnation immortal city were also shocked and looked in the direction of the city lord's mansion. Their eyes were full of admiration. Where did such a huge cloud come from? I'm not sure, but it looks like it's the city lord's masterpiece again. Don't worry, everyone. Believe in the city lord. Everything he does is for us to live a better life. That's right, I believe in city lord Yi. No matter what he does, I'll support him 100%. Yu of Gojosian is mighty. Long live city lord Yi. Just as everyone was attracted by this strange scene, the clouds of providence above the reincarnation immortal city underwent a new change. In the beginning, this huge luck cloud was green, but now it was gradually turning purple. At the same time, its range continued to expand. Now it was the size of 2 reincarnation immortal city and showed no signs of stopping. Yichen was also stunned by the luck astral wind rolling in between heaven and earth. This was the luck of the entire world converging on him, so the movement was definitely not small. Feeling his body being filled by the luck of heaven and earth, Yichen's heart was undergoing a subtle change. At the same time, he was also undergoing a rebirth. At this moment, he felt that he was more closely connected with everything in the world. At the same time, he had a deeper understanding of the nature of this world. Some of the problems that he could not solve in the past were now solved with the support of the luck of heaven and earth. It was not a problem at all. The luck cloud grew bigger and bigger, and the range it covered was also getting farther and farther. Now it had completely turned purple and was turning golden. At this time, hundreds of birds flew together and thousands of beasts gathered. All the rare birds and beasts ran out and gathered under the luck cloud, unwilling to leave. At this time, everyone was attracted by this rare, strange scene in this world. No one hunted these birds and beasts. The luck cloud kept expanding until it enveloped the entire reincarnation immortal city. Then it gradually stopped. When the providence cloud expanded to its limit, it gradually shrank. At this moment, Yi Chun could feel the providence of heaven and earth surging into his body faster and faster. After a while, the clouds of luck in the sky gradually turned from purple to golden. Yi Chun also saw this change. At the same time, there was a melodious heavenly music in the sky. This heavenly music was like a yellow bell, making people feel relaxed and happy. At this moment, all of the Eastern players and natives were immersed in this peerlessly beautiful heavenly music, and they were completely intoxicated. Some of the citizens and soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city suddenly realized that their cultivation levels were increasing slowly as they listened to the heavenly music. Realizing this, they all became excited. Good heavens! My cultivation is increasing. Ha ha! Yeah, I feel it too. This is simply a miracle. Although the growth of my cultivation is very slow, my bottleneck is already showing signs of loosening. Long live you of Beach! Long live you of Beach! Forever loyal to you of Beach! You of Beach! Never betray! Long live you of Beach! You of Beach! Long live you of Beach! You of Beach! Damn, what is you of Gojosian doing? This scene is too grand. Not only that, it's 2F asterisk king spectacular, 2F asterisk king shocking. I've played games for so long, but this is the first time I've seen such a spectacular scene. The citizens were shocked and grateful, but the players were stunned and in disbelief. Gradually, more and more natives of the reincarnation immortal city knelt toward the sky. Soon, more and more of them were kneeling and covering the entire reincarnation immortal city. At the same time, the Providence cloud in the sky turned completely golden. At the same time, a clear phoenix's cry and a dragon's roar came from beyond the sky. Then, a 9-colored phoenix and a 9-clawed golden dragon appeared above the reincarnation immortal city. The 9-colored phoenix and golden dragon circled around the reincarnation immortal city and sang joyfully, as if they were very excited. The appearance of the dragon and phoenix was an auspicious sign that had not been seen for thousands of years. The simultaneous appearance of the dragon and phoenix shocked all the natives and players of the reincarnation immortal city. Oh my God, what did you of Gojosian do? This scene has never been seen before. It's been thousands of years, and no one has seen the appearance of a dragon and a phoenix at the same time. I've really opened my eyes today. Let's wait and see. There will be a big surprise today. Everyone was looking forward to what was going to happen next. No matter what Yi Chen did now, he would be supported by countless people. In the reincarnation immortal city, he was a legend, a godlike existence. At this moment, the Providence cloud above the reincarnation immortal city had turned from golden to golden, and the heavenly music from before was getting louder and louder. It was very captivating. As for the dragon and phoenix, they seemed to be even happier. They circled around the reincarnation immortal city and sang joyfully. They also flew toward Yi Chun along with the Providence cloud. Finally, under everyone's watchful eyes, the Providence cloud that had turned completely golden in the sky was shrinking rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi Chun felt that his body was completely filled by this extremely condensed Providence. It formed a golden body that was as big as him and was completely condensed from the Providence of heaven and earth. The golden Providence cloud in the sky was now rapidly converging into this golden body of Providence, causing it to grow rapidly. The golden body of Providence grew bigger and bigger. In just a short while, it was already hundreds of feet tall. Look, what's that? At this moment, the players who were closer to the reincarnation immortal city had already seen Yi Chen's golden body of Providence. They all looked at him in disbelief. Could it be that Yi Yu of Gojosian has become a Buddha? This golden body of Providence was indomitable and extremely tall. Moreover, it was constantly emitting golden light. This caused many Eastern players to misunderstand that Yi Chun had become a Buddha. As the golden body of Providence grew rapidly, the golden Providence cloud in the sky quickly disappeared. When all the Providence clouds disappeared, the golden body of Providence also stopped growing. At this moment, all the Eastern players and natives only saw a golden giant that was thousands of kilometers tall. It was like an ancient mountain that stood indomitable on the land of the East and looked down on all living beings. Is this the descent of the true Buddha? The golden body of Providence emitted an endless golden light that completely enveloped the Eastern land in a golden light. Some players who believed in Buddhism thought that the true Buddha had descended and actually knelt down to pray. Chapter 1305. Just as the natives and players were in shock and were about to kneel down, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for successfully condensing the golden body of Providence. Special reward, X150000, innate attribute points, X 30,000 supreme grade spirit stones, X innate merit points. Once this announcement was made, the whole world was in an uproar. The players in the East were even more overjoyed. Damn, so this is condensing the golden body of Providence. I thought Yi Yu of Gojosian was going to ascend and become a Buddha Yes, yes. The scene just now was so scary. But is the golden body of Providence a joke? How am I supposed to know? Anyway, it must be very impressive. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caused such a big commotion. It seems like we won't be able to catch up with Yu of Gojosian's achievements in a few lifetimes. I hope we can follow him and reap more benefits. Yu of Gojosian, please do me a favor and take me in. I don't ask for much. I just want to be a female slave who serves tea and water. Pfft. Why don't you look in the mirror and see what you look like? There are so many people who want to be Yu of Gojosian's female slave. Even if the world ends, it won't be your turn. Brat, don't run. I'll beat you to death. Meanwhile, the players who were lurking in every corner of the world were so angry that their noses were crooked. Damn it, that freak called Yi Chun is getting stronger and stronger. If this goes on, how are we going to take revenge? It's too unrealistic to talk about revenge now. Let's wait and see. Maybe the situation will turn for the better after Yi Chun ascends. F***K. How long do we have to wait? According to my estimation, it should be soon. At this time, Yi Chun was sitting cross-legged in the indomitable golden body of fate. He was completely bathed in the incomparably rich fate of heaven and earth. A peaceful feeling that he had never felt before seeped into his heart at the same time. The feeling was simply wonderful. After the world announcement ended, the towering golden body of Providence immediately shrunk. In the blink of an eye, it had shrunk to the same size as Yi Chun and completely merged into Yi Chun's body. The nine-colored phoenix and the nine-clawed golden dragon also let out a high-pitched cry at the same time. They immediately turned into two streams of flowing light, poured into Yi Chun's left and right arms, and then disappeared. At this moment, Yi Chun noticed that there were two dragon and phoenix tattoos on the outside of his arms. On his left arm was the pattern of a nine-clawed golden dragon, while on his right arm was the pattern of a nine-colored phoenix. At this moment, he heard the game's notification again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for completely controlling the golden body of Providence and obtaining the approval of the dragon and phoenix auspicious beasts. From now on, you can summon the nine-colored phoenix and the nine-clawed golden dragon to fight for you. Upon hearing this notification, Yi Chun was very surprised. Previously, he only knew that plundering all the world's fate of Providence would bring him great benefits, but he did not know what the benefits were. When the golden body of Providence was condensed, he was already very satisfied. He did not expect to be able to subdue a dragon and a phoenix for him to use. The nine-colored phoenix and the nine-clawed golden dragon were very rare auspicious beasts. While he was happy, he also saw the game world's detailed introduction of the dragon and phoenix. Nine-colored phoenix beyond the 33rd heaven strength. Daluo Jinxian level bloodline, descendant of the ancient immortal phoenix introduction. The nine-colored phoenix is a rare immortal bird beyond the 33rd heaven. It has powerful strength, and its physical body exceeds the 3 realms and is not part of the 5 elements. Its attack power is strong. Skills: Phoenix's Nirvana, Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens, Incinerate 3,000 Worlds, Purgatory Sea of Fire, Heavenly Telepathy Array, and other ultimate powers. Phoenix's Nirvana. After death, it can choose a suitable time to undergo Nirvana resurrection. After resurrection, its strength will return to its peak state. Phoenix Dance of the 9 Heavens. The 9-colored phoenix's strongest attack ability. It can attack the target 9 times in a row. The power of each attack will increase by 9 times. The power of each attack can be stacked up to 9 times. It can be stacked up to 81 times the attack power. Incinerate 3,000 worlds. This ability can release vast, heavenly fire and burn 3,000 worlds at the same time. Due to its great power, it can harm the harmony of heaven and earth. It should not be used carelessly. Purgatory Sea of Fire. The 9-colored phoenix's attack ability. No one can escape from the Sea of Fire. Even the soul will be burned into nothingness. Heavenly Telepathy Array. Opens up a space of fire and refines everything in the world. Anyone who enters this array will have no chance of survival. This is the Nine-Colored Phoenix's special ability. Immemorial Chaotic Nine-Clawed Golden Dragon Strength. Daluo Jinxian Level Bloodline. Descendant of the immemorial Chaotic Golden Dragon introduction. Born in the immemorial era, it roams the chaos, transcends life and death, and is not afraid of reincarnation. It was born with the immemorial Thunderblast, Chaotic Azure Dragon Roar, Myriad Worlds Tornado, Nine Dragon Space Lock Array, Ascending Dragon Reverberating Wave, and other supreme abilities. Immemorial Thunderblast. The Nine-Clawed Golden Dragon summons the immemorial Chaotic Divine Thunder to launch a terrifying attack on the enemy. Anyone who is hit by it will have their soul destroyed and will never be reincarnated. Chaotic Azure Dragon Roar. With one roar, all enemies will be destroyed. It is a large-scale attack ability with extremely high damage. Once it is used, its destructive power is extremely terrifying. It should not be used carelessly. Myriad Worlds Tornado. Spatial ability. This ability can travel through space at will. It can come and go freely in any space. Nine Dragon Space Lock Array. Traps the enemy in a dark space without time. No one who enters the array has survived. Ascending Dragon Reverberating Wave. Time Reversal Ability. In a critical moment, it can reverse time by 3 seconds. After truly understanding the abilities of the two auspicious beasts, even the knowledgeable Yi Chun could not help but secretly click his tongue. These two pets were too awesome. Any one of their divine abilities could kill gods and Buddhas. Of course, mighty figures could not. It was not until now that he truly realized how great the benefits of condensing the golden body of providence were. Yi Chun had 2 more trump cards for his upcoming mission to ascend to the Eldritch world. After all this was done, Yi Chun sat cross-legged in the sky and gently opened his eyes. Looking down, all the natives of the Great Han Dynasty were kneeling on the ground and casting worshipful gazes in his direction as if they were on a pilgrimage. Everything just now was too shocking. Many people were still immersed in it and had yet to wake up. Looking at all the living beings below, Yi Chun suddenly felt a sense of compassion in his heart. It was as if all the people in this world were his children and the object of his protection. Yi Chun did not know where this feeling came from. Perhaps it was a kind of responsibility, as an emperor who had collected the world's providence. No matter how powerful he became, no matter how high and mighty he was, his subjects were his foundation. He could not ignore them, because this was the rule, the foundation of the imperial path of providence. It was the same no matter when or where. When Yi Chun understood all this, he immediately shouted to the entire world in the sky. Tomorrow is an auspicious day. I will ascend the throne and become emperor. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.